What it do, guys? It's D'Anthony here, man, aka Hood Scout, back again for another edition of the Hood Scout podcast. And this is really a unique podcast, a podcast like no other. We're going to have athletes, we're going to have coaches, we're going to have intellectuals, we're going to have media members of all sorts. And don't forget, guys, to like this podcast, share this podcast, and help grow this podcast. This is not just my podcast. This is also your podcast. And the only reason it's going to grow is because you guys are going to be invested in it, guys. Sit back, get your beverage of choice ready, get your popcorn ready, get your dinner ready, get your steak ready, get your vegan meal ready. Tune in, guys. Hood Scout. Peace. Hey, what it do, y'all? Welcome back to another edition of the Hood Scout podcast. Today, I got a guest that's been on the show a few times, so we doing part 3. I really don't got to introduce him, but I will. 2-time state champion. Coach, tell people who you are, man.
Kyle Ward. I am currently defensive coordinator at Southoakcliff High School.
Back-to-back champion, Coach. Say that, though.
Back-to-back champion, man.
Gotta say that. Oh man, we got so many different directions we can take this thing. But I do this all the time, but I still gotta do it, Coach. Give a super quick rundown of your coaching journey. And then we can go from there.
I'll be quick. I was 2 years Lincoln High School in Dallas, 2 years at West Mesquite High School, season at Texas A&M University in College Station. Spent all the spring at Boise State University in Idaho. Went back to West Mesquite for a year, see those seniors through, and then I went to SOC, and this was year 8. So it's obviously by far the longest I've ever been anywhere.
Year 8. Wow, that's man. That leads me right to my next question, because it's kind of crazy, because I really don't even want to hit on the state championship. I want to talk about building. It's crazy that it is, but we'll eventually lead up to y'all going back to back. But one of the first things, Coach, I was wondering, I said, man, they coming off back-to-back championships. You're losing a lot of players. Speak to Coach, speak at the ground root level. Speak to that middle school, and not just the middle school, but that middle school freshman team. How did that matriculation process works to where you can try to build that thing to keep winning? How does that work?
I think, it's different for everybody, for every school in different areas, one-horse towns, suburbans, one-horse towns, suburbans with 4 high schools, suburban with 10 high schools, inner city. And, that looks different everywhere. And for us, our middle school, we have 2 feeder schools. We don't get a whole lot out of our feeder schools. Through Black Flight and our neighborhoods look totally different. Southoakcliff High School, I would say, I think the number is 67. We're 67% Black. Our 2 feeder schools are almost 80% Hispanic. So a lot of where we get our kids from as a school into not just athletics, not just auxiliaries, but where we get our kids from have a lot to do with the history of the school. When we say stuff about the Mecca and stuff like that, it's so rooted in the community. And as Black Flight has went, SOC people have traveled and they live in different places, but SOC is still home for a lot of them. And that could be your granny, your auntie, your mom, your dad, your older brother. So when it comes to that, your freshman team is very, very important, because you're really you're playing catch up. You are to the teams that we're trying to be consistently, that we have began to be. It's the catch up part of it. It has to do with UIL rules and your scheduling in the building matters for that. How many kids have the athletic period? How much advantage are you taking of the athletic period? Because it's only certain things you could do after school. So I think we've kind of found that formula for us. And losing it offensively, we didn't lose a lot, but defensively, we lost a lot of kids. And I think we have kids to I mean, we've been a death row defense for 5 years now.
Yeah.
You know, they called us that 5 years ago, and we've been through a lot of 5 classes, and I think we'll still be who we are. You know, this year was arguably the best year we've had. You know, it's another year. 2 years ago, our defense was pretty dang good, and so I let those kids argue about that. I know I got the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be who we are, you know, and we already started that process on making sure we take the steps that's needed, especially with those younger kids.
So, Coach, and this is going to be a good one. Then I can already tell it's going to be fun. And when you talk about those disadvantages, is that something that all DISD schools experience? Because I know when we talk about our sector, we're always going to throw in Duncanville, DeSoto, you know, Lancaster. But that struggle, is that more so a inner city DISD type of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Just from my experiences, I can only speak from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. I have worked at a suburb school before. I think a lot of those challenges are based on so many different things. When you talk about who is your administration, how much fire is your administration under for academics, because that messes with scheduling. You know, I've been called for job opportunities and asked straight up, you know, how's y'all's master schedule look? When is athletics? What does that look like? Can it look like this? And I've been told, oh, I don't know if we can do that. Well, yeah, I don't know if I can do that. You know,
hold on, Coach. Now, is this recently?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is gonna be so good. So I'm assuming that's the head coaching opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I ain't want to. So you're willing to listen if the opportunity is right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the responsible thing to do.
Okay.
The biggest issue that I can say I have is I'm an inner city guy. I take a lot of pride in it. I believe you keep what you kill, you build what you want. I don't think you go into an ideal situation, but I also know that you need support, and you can't do it by yourself. And you know, a lot of our success, Coach Ty said it. I was listening to him speak the other day. Coach Ty said it. A lot of our success has to do with the village, you know, the coaching staff village. You know, you use the defensive side of the ball. Dominique Spencer, Cranston Jones, those guys call plays. It's not the Coach Ward show. You know what I'm saying? Death Row is everybody, and we play our role, and everybody knows their role. And I mean, case in point, first round of the playoffs, the Mansfield Summit. I got whatever bug that was going through everybody at that time, especially football teams. You heard the teams being sick and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I missed Monday through Wednesday. I showed up Thursday not knowing what was going on. And Coach Spencer and Coach CJ called that game, and we won 12-7. You know, it doesn't start and stop with me. You know, it's that's a big part of it. So when you want to be successful at a certain level, you need your administration to understand what it takes. In Dallas ISD and most inner city school districts, most people haven't seen that level of success, so they don't know what it takes. And if you tell them or try to tell them, a lot of times they feel like it's too steep. You know, it feels like a risk for them because they've never seen it done that way. And you know, I mean, that's hard, man. You know, I mean, it really is, because you gotta be willing to give to get. And the gift and the curse in it, I've been exposed to it. I used to always be that guy that said I wasn't necessarily interested in being a head coach until I knew what it took to win big. You know, I don't want to learn on the fly. I'm a kid guy. You know, somebody said this to me, and I'm gonna say this, and I know you gonna cut it, but and I'm saying cut it and put it out individually. Yeah. You know, I never loved the game of football. You know, as a player, I feel like I underachieved as a player. But I excel as a coach because I love kids. And my love for kids drives me to do what I do and work as hard as I work. You know, everybody talks about love the game, love the game, love the game. Well, I don't know too many people that don't get paid to do it, talk like that. You know what I'm saying? It's an entitlement that comes with that. I'm kid driven, man. You know, and I think I know I got with a bunch of guys, administration and guys and gals, administration and coaches that feel the same way. So, that's the hard part, man. It's a gift and a curse because you know what it takes, and your standard is high. You ain't just I can't say anybody, but I ain't just looking to just be a part of some head coaching fraternity because my name is on the wall. You know what I'm saying? My name on the wall is Sock right next to all them other guys.
Yeah.
It's a round table. Coach Ty say that all the time. I call him boss sometimes just to annoy him because he hates it. Yeah. We work together. And so, man, it's hard. You're put in a tough position. And now I understand a lot more why those successful programs over long periods of time, they don't have a lot of staff turnover. You start to understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very deep, man, because it made me think about Coach Ty too, because I know he was at Skyline and as an assistant at Lincoln for a long time before he got that head job. And it's like, once you kind of see how it's done a certain way, the job has to be a certain way for you to take it. Is that right?
It cuts down your options. You are no longer the guy looking for a job. Yeah. You know the job you're looking for, and everybody doesn't function that way. It may not be the customer that you want to work with, because it may be a different environment. It may be a different environment as far as staff. Like I said, I'm a kid guy, so I can't see myself working and being happy and successful somewhere where people aren't kid guys. It put me in a position where, my options are extremely limited. Yeah. Wow. And that led me right to my next question, Coach. When we're talking about community, I remember, I want to say it was before this year started. Y'all, Coach Todd, I think you guys had y'all met in, I don't know, but the gym and the parents were there. What was said? What was said to get this community buy-in? Now, is that a shared byproduct of just winning, or is it, how do y'all get that buy-in from a parental standpoint to where you guys are getting it now? Is that, like I said, that a product of winning, or it's you guys have a formula for getting the support of the community or the children, parents, and whatnot? So I think I think first of all, depending on who you ask, you may get different answers with that. Okay. My perspective is, I think it's a lot of trust, and it's based in relationship. Again, this is year 8. When you look around in a lot of places, it ain't a lot of people that's been there 8 years, especially in our communities. That's typically not normal. So I think people know what we're about. It's been proven in our actions through consistency and being authentic, and consistency and being in the job and doing the job. I think what started a lot of what, this senior class went in, this class of 2023, they went into a building. We didn't have a school when they decided to come to South Oak Cliff High School. We were bust places. So that speaks to, it's way bigger than, what I guess normally drives people. It's about relationships, and people trust that people know us, and they trust us to take care of their children, like they're our own. And I think that's why we don't have a lot of, we don't lose a lot of kids either. We're going to coach hard, and we're going to teach life hard, and we're going to be honest, and we're going to be honest with parents, So I think I think that's where it's rooted for us. I think the winning kind of came as that number of people grew. Yeah. Because it's that way with coaches too. You get phone calls about if you got to open it on the spot staff, let me know. But when we was at Village Fair, I don't remember nobody being asked that question. What I'm saying? We were working 9:30 in the off season and 10:30 during the season, year round, and these families was going through it. Well, nobody asking for a job inside. You know what I'm saying? So as that number of buy-in people that are bought in grew, from parents to just the whole thing, it grew, and the wins came, and I think the attention came. But on the outside of that, the program ain't changed a lot. I think it's some key things that happen for us to get over some humps and win some games. But as far as how we do what we do, we probably I think we got it figured out about year 3. Wow. Coach, I noticed, like, with you guys, man, it reminds me almost like a college, like, the coaching, the support you guys have on the, the people there on the field. I'm like,
a lot of guys I may know, and some of them I don't know, is obviously schools, high schools, like college, you can only have a certain amount of coaches. Do you guys have just a lot of support as it relates to whether it's coaches, whether it's community, whether it's guys just on the field who may be somehow with the school in another way? Like, where does that support come from? Is that our community based? When I see guys on the thing, I'm like, man, I don't even know who that is. I don't know if that's a kid, parent, or what. Like, is that community based or is that somebody part of the school?
Yeah, I would say both.
Okay.
I think when I look at our sidelines, the guys who were on the sideline 4 years ago are pretty much still on the sideline.
Okay.
We have our paramedic guys. We have our security in the building guys. You obviously have downtown athletics administration. Sometimes you have some media guys. We have some. We've had these last 2 years a couple of good luck media charm that are told they better be at every SOC playoff game. So, we can't break. We creatures a routine, and some of us are superstitious, and so a lot of those people, I think, it's not a lot of new people. Let me say it like we're not like that. We don't like new people, like that.
Yeah.
The people that have been around have been around. You get a couple of people added here or there. Maybe somebody got a job at security in the building now or whatever. But for the most part, they're the same people that's been there.
And speaking of that and just kind of flow to what we're talking about, I wonder, do coaches want to coach for you guys? Of course, y'all are winning, but the culture piece, because a lot of schools coach don't seem like they have this culture where it's you guys work hard, but it's like you can be yourself. You don't have to code switch, in other words. Is that a rare thing? Let's be honest. Is that kind of a rare thing? Okay, speak on a little bit.
I've been told off the top of my head, and they actually both had really good seasons. Just off the top of my head, 2 different head coaches in the Metroplex that are at suburban schools, which I guess that narrows it down because it ain't many. But I've been told by 2 guys, it was refreshing as a Black man to see how we do things, and they didn't feel as much as though they needed to code switch, because a lot of it it goes into history, man. We haven't, as Black coaches, had a lot of success in running our own, and I'm talking about winning it and consistently winning. Todd is the first Black coach ever to win it twice at the same school. That tells you in Texas. That tells you right there what I'm talking about. So how we do things, I remember being at West Mesquite when the half zips first came out, the fleece kind of half zippers thing we had Nike West Mesquite thing, and they were thicker, so you didn't tuck them in even though they were short sleeve. And I remember, this was 2014 season, there were emails written, it's just so slouchy, they don't tuck their shirts in, and those wasn't even shirts that's supposed to be tucked in. But that just tells you how people have dictated how a coach is supposed to be. Who you are didn't matter. You had to adjust to coach. You know what I mean? What we've done is we are ourselves on the staff. As long as you're wearing you got your own swag, however you dress, you got your own body type. I was the coach years ago saying, man, I'm skinny fat. I don't need to be dressed the same way that the big coach got to dress or the little coach got to dress. I need to wear something that look good on me. And that's how we dress as a staff, and guys are in different stuff as long as you're in the right color, depending on your role or situation, that's fine. And that's how we carry ourselves. And I think people are seeing that used to be associated with losing. Undisciplined. I'm trying to think of all the buzzwords. A selfish. Those buzzwords that are constantly used in this profession, those things were associated with that. But, we kind of showing that doesn't mean that. You could be a different type of person. You can have a different type of culture because it's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And we found our way, And I think it has given a lot of coaches confidence to be themselves, to allow their program to be themselves. I spoke last weekend, and in Corpus Christi. And man, so many coaches. This is, bottom of Texas. So many coaches, brown and black coaches walked up and said the same thing. Like, man, the way y'all do things, man, we love it. Y'all inspire me. Y'all inspire us. We want to do it just like, so that, just to affect the profession in the way we have, you got to win to do it.
Yeah.
Because people respect when you win.
Yep.
But it means a lot, because, we were just being ourselves, and that's what we do. We're not trying to trend set or anything like that, but because of who we are and how people haven't been allowed to be themselves, especially in our culture, it happens to be a trend. It happens to set trends because nobody else has been comfortable enough to do it.
Yeah. And I think it stifles you when you're not allowed to be your creative, authentic self. It's hard to be who you are, like, because you're constantly having to switch who you are rather than being the authentic self. Maybe think about Belichick. He's a winner, but he has a half cut off hoodie, but it's not a problem because he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion winner. So it's like, y'all had to win, but I'm glad y'all won, coach, because now it's like the people are seeing how y'all did it. Because if y'all didn't win, then it would be an issue. It'll be made an issue.
For sure.
I want to segue right into it. You talked a little bit. We have plenty of phone conversations, but we talked about the trainer aspect of coaching. You guys have some trainers on staff. They're coaches, but their background is training. Mm-hmm. That's something else that was frowned upon too, right?
Oh yeah.
And a very fascinating thing with this, people might not understand this. People, even Texas high school people, is you told me something I verified and it was true. You said that when Joey McGuire was building Cedar Hill, he had 2 other prominent trainers working with his guys. As far as some capacity. Talk a little bit about that story, because I think that's so fascinating. Then talk to me about how you guys have kind of intertwined this training thing without looking down upon it.
Well, so I'll start there, and I kind of move to SOC. Clay Mack and D-Rob are prominent trainers now. They train pro guys. They are arguably the top of the mountain, at least in this region, not just state, with how they do what they do, a DB trainer and a wideout trainer. And I remember when those guys started, I was at West Mesquite. I remember they started it off at Kimball together. And then they kind of moved over. Something had somebody gets mad. You know how it is when you don't have a home, you get kicked off this field and you end up at this field, and they ended up at West Mesquite, and so I knew those stories because I know those guys so well. And that was the brilliance of Joey McGuire, beforehand, before the training thing really even was a thing. Those guys, he invited those guys, as long as, my kids get to go for free, y'all can come have sessions here. I want you to, and what that's doing, you're stealing reps for your kids, because legally you can't do certain things as a coach. You know what I'm saying? Especially at that time, it's loosened up a little since COVID. They kind of allow you a lot here, a lot there, but it's still kind of limited. But yeah, he had, and I knew because I trained the kid Daryl Miller, who was the cornerback. He was you're gonna put him in man on your best receiver at Cedar Hill his junior and senior year. 2 years they won it, the last 2. I want to say he graduated 15, so 13 and 14. Mm-hmm. But Daryl, I trained Daryl. Daryl was at West Mesquite with me and my kids all summer. Mm-hmm. And Joey's thing was Daryl. This is from Daryl. Coach McGuire's fine. As long as we're back by this day, which is like 2-3 weeks before camp starts. Mm-hmm. He knows where I'm at. He knows what I'm doing. Joey kind of maneuvered that very well. I don't know if that applied. I wasn't a part of the program. I don't know if that applied to every kid, but he did that very well. And then when they all came, he gelled and they made magic. You know what I'm saying? For us, and that kind of speaks to my background, my mentor is a trainer. He trained me. He trained several of our coaches on our staff, actually. I'm a college pro. Rod Jones, he played at SOC. He went to SMU, got drafted first round, played 11 years, was a world-class sprinter. But he trained us. So my background is I'm a trainer. I think like a trainer. Mm-hmm. And, so when I think about Zach Collins, Zach knows O-line. What is with the voice of the trench? What's all his nicknames? I feel like he like Prince, but you know, we embrace that. That's how our culture is built. That's how our team is built. We skill. We teach our kids the game as trainers. You know, when a trainer gets a kid, it's from baseline. It is what is 2 + 2. It is our job to teach him 2 + 2 and advance. We got 4 years to advance that to calculus BC. That's how we function. You know, it's not looking for ready-made products. You get the kids you get. You know, and we don't. You know, when you start talking about all the transfers and mercenary minded, you can kill culture with that. So that's not a big thing for us. We love the developmental kid. You know, if you ever hear Coach Spencer talk, especially publicly, he's going to talk about the developmental kids. You know, the Superman, Brandon Jones, the number 8 linebacker, what came in, played wide out his whole life. He don't weigh the most, but you watch him in the game versus D1 backs, and he'll fit them at the line and ain't no yards after contact. You know, those kids are what make our program. That people see the end result of those kids. And, you know, Coach Spencer being like a linebacker trainer, me and Coach Jones being DB trainers, Coach Collins and Coach Lindley being like O-line trainers, and, you know, Coach Walker being like a quarterback. Like those kids, people see the end result, you know, but a lot of those kids from day one walking into other people's program, they might have been ignored, you know. That's something that that's the part of it we enjoy, I think. So, I mean, a trainer fits right in with us because that's how the program is built. It ain't just about, we just want to teach scheme. We're going to work scheme. Now, we want to skill this kid and get them to understand. And I think about the state championship game versus Port Neches Grove, you know, the Muhammad boys, Malik and Abdul, you know, because of formation and the way that they were playing us, they were able to play a 2-on-2 game. And they were able to get the play call and read the splits and see the matchups and decide if they wanted to play the call or if they wanted to clamp it and play man and change up how they played man together. So it was an entire game of a 2-on-2 where those kids were pretty much deciding on their own. And it was masterful to go back and watch it after the game. You know, in game, I didn't realize how advanced it was that they were functioning.
Yeah.
From the other team's perspective, they might have just felt, oh, they just playing man. Yeah. But it was way deeper than that. Those kids understanding of what they were doing, what you were trying to do to them. A lot of our trainer-based thinking is why those kids have such an understanding to be able to do that.
Yeah. 30 minutes in, guys, and if you just joined us, get your tea because we really just get started. I mean, I really am. But I think you just said something fascinating, Coach. And I'm not just saying this. Y'all had, to me, the smartest defense in the whole state. And I know a lot of people look at you guys like you got a lot of talent. I mean, you do have talent, but I don't think it's talent. I think it's you got really smart players. And I told you this before. I mean, really smart guys. How does that take place, guys? I mean, Coach, you know, what's y'all schedule? You know, that Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday schedule. It's really Sunday, I'm assuming. But what's that schedule like? What's that preparation like? How do you guys develop these guys to where they're, in essence, smartest college guys playing in the secondary and on that defense? How do you develop that side of the mental game that is you don't always see at high school level?
I mean, I think it is based in kind of how you worded the question. You know, they are able to put in the time college guys put in from a mental aspect. You know, a college guy, they get to the school and they start to learn the system, and then you have pre-spring, which it used to be mat drills. I don't even know what they call it anymore because they can use balls now. And you learn this, you install once there. Then you install once during spring ball. Then you install once in the summer. Then you install during camp. So realistically, they've went through the scheme 4 times before the season has hit. You know, that's why, you know, a true freshman, a kid that's trying to play as a true freshman, him early grading is important so he can get those times. Well, we are more grassroots, obviously, than college. So we have to take advantage of not just teaching scheme a lot, but teaching you football and your position. from the baseline. And as it gets, like I said, man, you got to go from 2+2 to calculus BC. And when you start looking at it, a kid that's been in the program for 4 years, how many times have they went from 2+2 to calculus BC in a year? So they start to get smarter. They start to understand things that a lot of people don't understand. Me and you kind of talked about it before. The scheme that we run, especially defensively, is very advanced. So when you start digging into it, you get an understanding of certain things. Those kids understand it like coaches understand it, and they are able to execute it. And more than anything, they understand what you're trying to do on the other side of the ball, and they can use that against you. We encourage that. I think the easiest way to sum it up is it's more. Coach Todd is this way. He's been this way. I'm this way. It's more interactive. It's they're more like coworkers from that perspective. Our defensive tackle, CJ Kidd, Cortland Kidd, the anchor of our defense. CJ at points in the last 2 games, state semifinal and the final, he's telling me and us what calls because he knows the block. He understands what we're calling, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to help them up front. So if he starts getting a block or somebody starts oversetting him, he can feel it and he can get you. I mean, it got to a point, I want to say in the semi, it was either the semis or the finals, but I just pointed like, man, you got it. You do. You know what I'm saying? It's not a lot of situations like, that kid, and now you put it in the kid's hands in biggest game of his career to that point. And, he not just he's reading what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So the front and our defensive rules, whatever he calls is gonna match with whatever we calling in the back now. So he's adjusting. We ain't got to see it as fast from the box because he changing it. He know, okay, they doing this. Oh, this alignment. Oh, when they do this, when they widen these splits a little bit, we normally get this. And this front we want to be in versus this. So hey, change this. So he's changing it on the line. Based off of that. And that's hard because now you're not coaching against coaches. You're coaching against. It's like when you give Brady the play call,
Yeah.
If he see a look he like, he going to change it. And he's going to change it within your rule. You see what I'm saying? It's not like a kid's just out there freestyling. The goal of every coach should be to create a carbon copy of yourself on the field. When you've done that, they understand why you're doing what you're doing and what the rules are. If the coach went on the field, they would be changing stuff last minute too. The problem is you get a call and now you're stuck because they got to look at the offense. Well, them kids got to play the game, and that's our philosophy. So I think a lot of it is just, we empower those kids. We have the tools to teach them. We have the tools within the scheme to where we're not very limited, and we give them all of that, and then it's yours. We say it all the time. I'll be here next year. You got this your last one. So, I'd rather you live and die with what you think because I trust you. You've done enough. You've earned the right for me to trust you. You've shown it consistently. And, now, I mean, when them kids feel like that and they make it their own, it's hard. It's hard on them.
Yeah. 32 minutes in, talking to Coach Cal Ward, defensive coordinator, South Oakcliff, back-to-back state champion, Hood Scout podcast. So I've been around guys in your secondary, whether it's, they're going against D-Rod wide receivers in training. They're calling out sets and they're vocal. They're very vocal. And I think that's a great point when you said, that level of communication. Is that rare on our side? Because, so often the intellectual side of the game, a lot of people like to say, oh, they're just athletes. They just can run fast. Is it just that you guys have communicated that? What is it that they get it? Because that seems like that's not everywhere where these guys get it mentally. It's one thing to run a 4.3 and be 6'3". It's another thing to get it like a college guy. I mean, I know you kind of just broke it down, but I'm just reiterating just how, to me, rare that is.
Yeah.
And I want in the kind of part two. Is this some of the systems, some of the things you have infiltrated? I mean, put in with this learned in college?
Yes. Yeah. The scheme wise, yes.
Okay. Speak on that a little bit. Just how, because I think they confident. How did you build their confidence? What are some of the 2+2 things you did to begin with? Let me phrase it like that.
I mean, I'll do a DB because it's always easiest for me. 2+2 would be what is cover 0, what is cover 1, what is cover 2, what is cover 3, what is cover 4, what is 2-man.
Yep.
Then what beats those coverages? We ain't talking about reads. We saying baseline. If I play Madden, you know what I'm saying? What do they need to run to beat it? And I ain't talking about some 99 overall player with 99 awareness just bailing me out. I'm saying if everybody is even and they play at high exposure play, there are things that beat everything. There is no defense or offense that beats everything. I know we all like to think that, but it's not. So starting there, just understanding what they are and then what beats it. That ain't got nothing to do with our scheme. That's just football. As far as the scheme, I am considered a part of the Boise State tree. I know a lot of the guys and have met a lot of the guys that may not even necessarily been there when I was there. But the guys that when I was there, Texas Yates, who was the DC at the time, is at Texas Tech as the co-DC secondary coach. The DB coach, Juice Brown, he's at Washington, coaching secondary. The backers coach, Andy Avalos, is the head coach at Boise now. The D-line guy we had, Steve Caldwell, is retired now, but he coached all those years with Fulmer at Tennessee, won that championship with T. Martin and Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning didn't win it, but that time he was at Arkansas for all those years with Petrino before he got in trouble. So he'd been around the game a long time. And then there was another GA, Byron Howe, who I think he's at Idaho State now. But those guys, I'm the only guy in high school, but the tree and the relationships, I'm able to call guys and ask scheme questions. None of us, from what I understand, have deviated. I know the DC at Boise now, Spencer Danielson, and he recruited one of our backers a couple years ago, Jai Jones, and he'd be at SOC. And we sit down and we'll compare. And he wasn't there when I was there. He was Andy Avalos' GA at Oregon, but it's still he was the DC. So it's still that same system. When Yates left Boise, it was a secondary driven defense. When Avalos took over, he's a backer guy, it became a backer driven defense. That's when Van Der Esch and those guys, that's who developed Van Der Esch. So it's still a developmental mindset. And the system, again, it has rules because you got to look at Boise offenses typically are shifts in motions, formation. You think the game, cheat the split. They're using defensive rules against you on defense, and the defense is built to use offensive rules. So it's a constant mental battle. Even in the walkthrough, it's so much moving and talking. And that's the tree I'm from. I wasn't there long. I already kind of fit the culture of it. I was blessed to be when I got the coordinator job at West Mesquite. I tried to myself and Tim Cedar, who's the head coach at North Mesquite now. We were co-DCs. He wanted me to do the back. I wanted to do the front. He was doing the front. He got a job. We're halfway through. We're going to A&M trying to learn a defense, because we're trying to put together what we want to do. And then he got a job with our head coach that had just left. And so then I was by myself. So I had to try to figure out, and use this baseline rules to put together. And I did the best job I could with the help of Marcus Shavers, who's at McKinney now. And I left in the summer. And I left in the summer, and I was able to learn the defense that I was trying to emulate and see where I was wrong. So that was the first stage of learning scheme-wise, on the fly. And this is before I ever had to call a game. And then we left A&M after, and we went to Boise, and we sat down with that room of guys, and we put a scheme together. I think that cleaned it up a lot, just because of the different minds you had in the room. And so that was the second time. You see what I'm saying? I got to kind of build my philosophy, but I'm learning my scheme before I'm even going through trial and error as a play caller. And then I went back to West with Shavers, who was running something different. And so a lot of the stuff, the organizational, analytical stuff, I took and went into trying to add to what Shavers believed in and what he was doing. And I think, I did the best I could. We had a really good year. So that was using the defense to kind of put in place. We wasn't like his defense, just trying to answer questions within it, or wherever I didn't see. And he was great with that. And then I got signed. And now I'm with Coach Todd, who is this guy who's had all this success on defense as a coordinator, as a head coach now. And so then you had those debates because the philosophies were totally opposite. Coach Todd was a formation adjust defense. Kyle was based off of formations, and I was we call what we call, and we have checks to formations, but you can't get us out of what we do. We're not changing no call. So that was a learning curve and a meshing for both of us as defensive guys, and there was some lessons within that. I came in like most young coordinators and tried to go fast, tried to install a lot. And kids wasn't ready for it, at times. And learned to slow down. And then, we graduated a bunch, and we had lost a bunch of kids through the process of between hiring Coach Emmett Jones leaving and Coach Todd getting it. We lost a lot of kids. So after that year, you lost a lot of your juniors and sophomores to be. You lost freshmen and sophomores. Just part of the inner city, stability. That people are gonna look for it, and if we don't know who my coach gonna be, sorry coach, but sorry, there ain't no sorry coach because I ain't no coach. I'm out of here. And that year we played a lot of young cats, a lot of sophomores, and Todd was the driving force. He taught me how to dumb it down, and because we played them babies. Now 2 years later, those babies were seniors, and that's when people nicknamed us Death Row. So it was obviously worth it. But yeah, man, the scheme it was a work in progress. How we study ourselves. I talked about self scouting this weekend. How you study yourself.
Speak on a little bit, coach.
Huh?
Speak on a little bit.
So you pretty much just chart everything. You're looking at stats, and it ain't just the baseline stats. It could be missed tackles on the season. It could be third down percentages, fourth down percentages, explosive plays, explosive runs, explosive passes. You when you chart them yearly, it's some things to be taken into consideration. First of all, the kids you actually have and the talent level that you play. Like this year was by far the best schedule we've played at Stock. Yeah. And we had a year where we played Longview, Ennis, and Lancaster, but we didn't finish 6 games into the playoffs where we played the caliber at the end. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
We weren't ready, so we didn't win to get to those opponents. This year we played those first 4 games and those last 6. Summit, that first round game was the one we were anticipating, and that was the toughest one because it was a mirror image. And so that's 10 tough games of 16. And Woodrow didn't play like no punk. You know what I'm saying? They showed up and they gave us a game. So, looking at those things and taking them into perspective, you look at it like, okay, why did this number go up? Okay, let's say sacks. Your sacks dropped. I may chart it differently where it's just sacks or pressure sacks where we send pressure. Yeah. And some years you adjust the personnel, you might pressure more because that's how you gotta get your sacks. That's how you get your pressure. Some years you don't have to send as much pressure. So you got to look at those things. Okay, this number dropped. So now you got to go watch all the passes and study the front. It's a very tedious process where you have to be very transparent and open with yourself. You got to be able to say, I don't know everything, and I'm looking for what I don't know, so that I can fix it before somebody else finds it and shows you publicly what you don't know. You know what I'm that's a lot of self-scouting. So when you go over the years and you constantly work and trying to get better, I learned from just scheme-wise from, Alito, spending so much time year-round thinking about and prepping for and learning them. When we won it last year, I didn't come off of the season like we know everything, we good. I came off of the season like, okay, what new can I add because everybody's going to study us. You know what I'm saying? because that's the same thing. You know, when they talk about being the hunted, we think everybody's best game play, and so the scheme evolved over years, you know, and it has gotten to the point where you've been there long enough. The kids have been in it, you know, whatever kid is playing, they've been in it three or 4 years. So it's a comfort level. It never feels like too much, you know. Like I said, those guys that I work with, the feedback, you know, the ideas, you know, you call it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got a feel, you go. That coach or kid, you got it. You've earned it. You've been here long enough. You know, I ain't never trying to act like it's a one-man show. I don't believe that works in football. Not at higher levels. I don't think one person knows. I think everybody is made up of the people that work around it. And you know, being able to lean on and back off and, you know, motivate people to feel empowered. You know, it is to feel like it's theirs. I think that's something that we thrive with, and that goes back to what you were talking about with those kids. Them kids are empowered. They know the game. You know, 7-on-7 helps our kids in the secondary because they get to see how much more they know than everybody else. In my opinion.
Wow. Yeah.
Whether they dealing with Coach Ward and I'm yelling and telling you what you don't know all the time, you go to 7-on-7 and you realize the game ain't taught. It's not common, like you said, on this level, to where kids stand, you know, to that level. So, you know, I just think that scheme-wise, it's a process. It took years. You know, a big mistake I think people make when looking at South Oak Cliff, whether how we are, how we brand ourselves, people didn't see the first 4 years.
Okay.
They didn't see them. And they didn't see them, like Todd always used to say, we hiding in the bushes until it's time to jump out at people. We wasn't on social media. We wasn't posting. You know, people see it and they feel like you have to do it because of how we do it in a lot of instances, or how we or other people do it. I mean, I kind of think we had a big part of that, especially on the high school level. But, you know, you get a head job this year or last year or whatever, and the first thing you feel like, okay, I got to have a presence. That ain't how we were. Our presence came, the first social media post I remember that we had that was a big deal was the year after we lost to Alito when we signed those 22 seniors. That's the first one. And that wasn't from Sock Page. Everybody else posted that. They posted that long video of all them kids signing. You know, you got to have something to show. Just talking only brings people attention, and you got to be ready when you bring their attention on yourself. It can't get personal. It can't get sensitive. You know, I want you to call the dogs off when I done talked. You know what I'm saying? I done brought the game up. It doesn't work like that. You sit there and you work and you earn it, and when you got something to show, then sell it. You know, then show the world what you done created. But I think, you know, often we talk before we ready to show the result, and then you got to do when you do that, you got to deal with that ridicule that comes with it. Yeah, if it don't show, people gonna talk, and in the podcast times, everybody got a voice. You got to be okay with everybody talking, positive or negative. You got to be able to take that on the chin and keep it rolling.
Yeah. 50 minutes in, man. I love when you wind up and just go, Coach, because it's crazy. Every time you're talking, all the questions I got in my head, you end up hitting on them as you're talking. I'm like, dang, he answered that. He answered that. He answered that. I mean, just and it's something that Davo said, who is a cornerback coming out this year class for y'all. He was like, man, we study film. Now I'm sure I don't know if that's coming. Maybe that's coming for high school, you know, players on their own to study film. But that's something else, a little nugget. I was like, man, that touched me. He was like, yeah, man, we'll get on Zoom sometime and study it as players, you know, to kind of speak to that mental side of the game that you guys have. I would just ask you right here, Coach, coming off 2 state championships, reviewing yourself, if you've had time to do that, what holes are you trying to fill now? And you kind of answered this other question a while ago, which you going back to that college tree, you know, reaching out to those guys. Is that your main base of learning? It's kind of going back to your college tree and reaching it that way, or you have another way of learning on that intellectual side to make sure that, you know, there's no chink in your armor?
I think for me, it is very. I never liked clinics because people didn't give you anything.
Yeah.
Everybody's so secretive.
Yeah.
I didn't really go to them. Now, honestly, if we being 100% honest, now I go as an ambassador of Black coaches and inner city coaches. And
I figured. Yep.
I intentionally go so that, people can see us and hear us. And that's not just, something I made up, or I think I just know what we're doing, how we do. People want to hear it. The people have talked to me, talk to us about it, constantly talk. Coaches come through, coaches come watch practice, coaches come watch off season. So I go now, so people can feel that up close and personal, because it's still, you never interact with certain coaches on certain side. I met so many coaches down in Corpus Christi, I never would have met those guys.
Yep, true.
And they would never have been able to say, I have some understanding of how South Oak Cliff functions, and I think that's important, because we all ambassadors of the game. It's our job to teach and grow the game. But for me, a lot of coaches learn like that. They go to clinics and they pick up little small things and they add up, and and I still do that. I still study. I pick and choose who I want to go listen to.
Yeah.
There's some people, your work speaks, and I pay attention. And if I think you do something really well, and I see you or your staff as they're speaking on it, I'm gonna go listen to see if you're giving anything. But for me, yes, I lean heavily on those guys because the school of thought is important. But that, I study us a lot. I have a couple of people. I have some coaches on our offensive staff that I lean on, that I ask questions about us, about what they think. Our O-line coaches, Coach Collins, Zach, a lot of people wouldn't notice, in the playoffs, Zach was giving us our third and long fronts, gaming the pass protection on defense. Zach, what you got? Or I call some, no, Ward, go this. This is the protection they finna be in. And I'm like, nah, in this situation, trust me. All right. Zach said it, we going. And we getting all that pressure and getting sacks. So leaning on those guys that understand that other side of the ball. Talking to Marcel Yates, if it's real important, I'll call Avalos, but he's a head coach now, so I ain't called him in a couple of years. I try to stay out of his way, until they win that championship, then I bother.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I lean on those guys and try to make sure I study and some good coaches that I'm around. We go against each other so much they start to learn you, and they'll have a perspective that's as good or better than people who play, because they see it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Coach, I want to hit on these 2 points, and we gonna stay talking. You got time? Okay. Talk to me a little bit how y'all formulate y'all schedule for that practice schedule. And I think you talked about this before in a prior episode, but how do you guys go about formulating that schedule to work for you guys? And then speak on toughness, man. That's, we've talked about the high IQ players. Y'all, those last 3 to 4 playoff games, especially that one out there at Crowley, it was a lot of toughness, Coach. I mean, you're talking about bending but not breaking. Where did that mental toughness come from? Was it just physical toughness, or is it kind of a interchangeable thing? Because it's hard, man. That's hard to win them games back to back to back, in they close games in some cases. That's hard to do.
Well, I think it was known, this year. We started the year off struggling on offense, and just the way our culture is, we don't really get into the that side, this side, bickering. That ain't happened that side since I don't remember the last time that happened. Because you carry your weight, it's gonna be time. I have always said that the defensive coach or the offensive coach that's complaining about the other side of the ball, when you got that game where you can't stop somebody, it's rough. What I'm saying? And you got to give that same grace. And everybody has to try to figure it out. It's your job to try to help them. And I think the way you call plays helps. it's some mistakes that I made, getting impatient at times as a play caller, calling some things and allowing big plays, not forcing people to drive the field at times. But the kids it's easier when you're at in year 8 and you're able to say, come on now, are we who we say we are? And the kids, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, what is Death Row is that just a cool name? Or is that who we are? Like, what are we gonna do? How are we finna respond? We got a thing where, sudden change. If the offense gets a turnover, like the Argyle game, those 2 turnovers, them kids are excited because that's when you prove you are who you are. That's where after the game, all the kids running up to the camera, me and coaches, we pointing at the death row and talking crazy because you don't get an opportunity to show you're an elite defense until it comes. You don't get to decide when you win or who you get it again. Duncanville, we had 3 4th and 1 stops. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Some sudden change stops. That Argyle was kind of a staple of what the program has been built on, and grinding it out. Those kids, they see the turnover, and in a lot of situations, it's like, and that's part of that is something I got from Shavers. Shavers was a big. It's easy for kids anywhere when it's a sudden change and you just run on the field. We get them kids up on us, and I knew we were fine because it wasn't a pep talk. When Will threw that pick, one got deflected, one he threw on back-to-back drives. Them kids was jumping up and down like it was a, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, here we go. That's where they were. It wasn't mentally like, oh, he just threw another one. That wasn't where they were. So we got them up, and they talking to each other like, here we go. You good? You good? All right, make sure. Let's go. So it's a cultural thing. Some of it is I think iron sharpening iron daily, year round. How we lift, how we run, how we talk. A lot of coaching is mental training. You teaching kids and other coaches how to think. Parenting is mental training. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a big part of it. I think we're a tough coaching staff to play for, because you're gonna get reality. We're not good at pampering. We have some people on staff who do a good job of helping soften the blow after a blow up or whatever, but we ain't very good at pampering. And we don't pamper each other, you know what I'm saying, as grown-ups, and we don't pamper ourselves. The last 2 state championships, it's been a time that I came in at halftime and said, hey, this was my fault to everybody. You know what I'm saying? The last 2 years, Liberty Hill, it was something a decision I made, something I was calling, anticipating something, and it was wrong, and it allowed them to get back in the game. That was my part of it. Against P&G, I made an adjustment that allowed an explosive run. That was too early. And, I made sure the kids know that. I made sure, the coaches do it. Like, that's on me. That's on me. So it's that openness. I'm just like y'all. Just like you might bust the coverage, I might call a bad play. You know what I'm saying? The only way you somebody off is softness or laziness. The mistakes don't happen. That you learn from mistakes. Most of us, that's how we learn. We don't learn from wisdom. We learn from trial and error. So I think it had a lot to do with both. I think it's culture, and I think it's how we set the culture. And those kids buy in. They buy into it, and they trust us. And they trust us in those moments. They trust that we're gonna adjust. We're open with why we call what we call. Schematically, they need to understand. And even in that game, it may be something that we know we may give up, but them kids understand. They're calling this to make them do this. If they do that, they got us. Okay, Coach said if they get us, and we gonna adjust. You know what I'm saying? So it's open. It ain't just robots and me holding a joystick and just pushing buttons and you go run there. You go run. It's very interactive all the way across, and I think that requires a lot of selflessness all the way around. Kids, coaches, You know, it's very collaborative. The way we function is, I think, is unique in that way, especially on this level.
Yeah, yeah. And then that schedule, coach. The formula y'all schedule with this practice, playoff schedule. How is that? Is that something you guys been doing for a long time, or did y'all have to tweak something? Talk a little bit about that.
I think early on, it was early on. Like I said, it was some opposite philosophy with that, with myself and Coach Medice at the time, who was the OC, and Coach Todd. You know, how he did things, how we did things. Coach Todd is a master at feeling out where the kids are mentally and changing something. But with that, as coordinators, it was a lot to do with, well, we planned for this meeting so that we could install this today. So now if we miss that and we get to the field, we can't do what we had planned to do with the practice schedule. So it took us a couple years to all kind of get an understanding. And even now, if Todd changed something, shoot, I might run up to the field and change the practice schedule. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To make sure we have a schedule to get on. But again, we've gotten a routine year-round down to where it's not the end of the world because that day, you know, we can readjust things. You know, back then, we didn't have the year-round schedule. So every day of practice was like it had to be, you know what I'm saying? Now, it's not that big a deal. You know, he'll have his day where it's like he wants to see offense and defense go at it. And it is what it is. And all the coaches in the stands, kids call the plays.
Yeah.
So you know, you might have planned for this day to be this. You know, now it's like, hey, I'm spotting the ball. You know what I'm saying? It ain't like it. You know what I mean? And it's fun, you know, because he has that. He does a really good job of feeling that, you know, just feeling the morale, the knowing when to do this, when to do that. And that ain't something you can plan, you know. Yeah. So the practice schedule, you know, I think is very structured. You know, we plan it. We work together in it. We stay on schedule. A lot of people, I didn't realize this. A lot of people, I knew this. A lot of people use segment clocks. We don't use segment clocks. Okay. You got to know. Somebody got to manage where we are when we are. You got to schedule. You got to keep up with it. You know what I'm saying? And when we were in the playoffs, people kept saying it. Man, y'all, I was tripping. Y'all don't use a segment timer. How do y'all stay on schedule and move so effectively? Yeah. You know, but people get locked in, you know, but that's some of the entitlement of a lot of things. You know, those kind of things, when you got them, you rely on them. When you don't have them and you have a perspective of, I'm the resource, you just do what you're supposed to do. We can work better than some people with a segment clock. We don't need that, you know. So maybe that's something Coach Todd will want to invest in and have fun with. He likes buying new gadgets and trying things in the off season. Yeah. But you know, the way we function, I mean, the way practice is, like I said, it's split. It's offense, defense. I think our structure of off season to during season is very trainer based. It is very split. It is not a whole lot of everybody come together a lot. We do it, but you know, everybody is a head coach of their position group. You know, I'm not standing over nobody's shoulder on defense. Our OC. You know, if it's something that we need to collaborate on, words are spoken. But yeah, we like you going back to what you said. I think we are very trainer based. I think that's why people like me, Spencer, Zach. You know, we get our time with our group. You know, we get our opinion on what's going on, and it's not looked at like you're trying to do your own thing. It's a lot of insecurity in this profession where people see it that way. And it takes time to earn trust with that, you know, but like the college level, you could be fired in 2 years. So when do you ever get time to earn trust, you know? So who you hire and or if you're able to hire, that stuff matters, man, you know? And I mean, it's a blessing that it's year 8 for us, you know. DB Traylor was here. I want to say this year 11, you know, 8 for me, 7 for Spencer, 7 for CJ. Coach Hornbuckle with the D-line with Traylor. I think this year 3 for him. So, we've worked together. We know each other. We're past that part of it. That's the part that, it's hard to get past because it changes so much. Well, luckily for us, it hadn't changed yet at this point.
Man, it is amazing how every time you talk, you literally start answering everything I'm about to ask, because you made me think about something. When me and you talked on our last episode, we talked about Joseph down there, Katie. I brought up assistant coach at Ennis that was been there for like 30 years or something crazy. Coach, how did that longevity play into it? Because even we talk about the college rank, a lot of turnover. High school to me, same thing, especially if you don't win, a lot of turnover. I guess maybe at the head coach level. But how does that cohesion and that longevity play out, or how important is it? Because it's only a few places where you have that type of longevity. Even though you look at Duncanville, Coach Sample's been there, and then they probably had some guys been there for a while. But at some positions on the coaching, it's the turnover. It's because of turnover, and I know that when you win, some turnover will happen. Guys get elevated. But as far as what does it mean to have longevity, is that still important?
Yeah, I think it is extremely important with the growing, especially on our side of town. Like we said, it go back to trust. If a new coach it takes time to learn to win over the community. They got to believe that you're gonna be there, that you're there for them. And one of the major things that Samples has that nobody else in the business has, at least to that level, is he's been coaching so long. He has so many relationships. He's trusted by so many people. He has kind of moved with Black Flight. You think South Dallas to Pleasant to Duncanville. So the customer that he has is the same customer over and over. We benefit from that with the fact that we have so many people that are rooted like that. It's not one guy, it's so many different guys that played, grew up, coached here, coached this person, coached that person. So I think the trust is a big part. So you have to have Mathis at DeSoto, there's a trust there. He was there before. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Peterman was there before him. He won that title when you look at it, that's not just our size. Look at the continuous contenders. Westlake, Ty Dodge. Ty Dodge is Ty Dodge. You know what I'm saying? He's retired now. Randy Allen, Highland Park. He's been the head coach since 1990. Buchanan at Alito, I think he's been the head coach since 1992. Katie is Katie. He's been there. He was the coordinator way before he got the job in 92, 93. So a lot of these places, it's in these jobs, it's about getting over these humps where you are. If it changes and the staff changes, you got to refigure how to get over that hump. That's the harder part to staying where it is. Case Allen, that staff figured it out, and won 3. And I don't know if they won another one or Gamble got it and won one. But he's from within the Allen tree. You know what I'm saying? And the more the staff started to turn over, the more the playoff wins started to go down. And that's pieces. That ain't just staff. That could be administration. The soup changed, the AD changed, the big booster does this or whatever. I think that consistency in the foundation of the program, which is the adults, in this profession and on the high school level is it's the biggest thing when you're talking about winning big. And like you say, when you say dynasty, how long did it take to get to the point where you could win one? Because I say all the time, what we're doing is on the shoulders of people before us, especially as inner city coaches. There are lessons that we learn through others' failures. And when you start talking about, Todd being at Lincoln with Samples and lessons that he learned in their failures. Skyline, the lessons that he learned in their failures. Then he was there with Emmett Jones. They went 4 rounds. There were lessons to be learned in their failures because the goal is to win a state championship when you get to the point. And then it took us 7, and stock as a defense and as an offense. There was turnover offensively, but there hasn't been turnover defensively. So you see how the defense got to a point and now it's just constantly here. There's not a lot of turnover. You know what I'm saying? You ain't lost key pieces like that. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Offensively, defensively, since Todd, it just sums it up. Defensively, since Coach Todd has got the job, he's had one defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Offensively, we've had 4.
Okay.
You see my point?
Yeah.
So as it changes, does the system change? Does the teaching of the system change?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of that, you got to figure out ways around that and find ways to find consistency, you know, and try to get it. You know, Coach Samples is really good at that. He's mastered that. You know, he can lose those guys, but he's found the formula to where it don't matter who's sitting in that seat, they're going to still function the Duncanville way. You know, that's the hard part to get to. And we won't know if we've done that until names start changing, you know, until faces start changing and you get to see, you know, if it's stable, you know. That's the thing, you know, that's part of it.
Yeah. Coach, man, this is some really good stuff, man. We're just a few more questions. I don't want to take Coach all night, but I knew we were going to be a little long, and this is like a class, man. That's why I always love it, because we go a lot of places, but it all end up tying back together. Coach, does winning a state championship really improve the overall school as far as in any level, the community, the school, academics, and then how does it stay in balance with the other athletic programs? You know, let's say, to be frankly honest, you know, Southdallas was a basketball school. They always had a good football program, but you know, Mays had them boys. It was a basketball school. You know, basketball program kind of went through some ups and downs. Now the football team is up. How does winning impact the overall school? I don't know if it impacts on the financial level or not. That's kind of a question I have. And then how does it impact it as far as the other sports in the school? Are they impacted by it?
I think for an inner city school, it does affect it financially. I just think, you know, part of the game, when you go deep in the playoffs, it becomes a different level, you know, financially, just selling out games, you know, getting the door, whatever, however it's structured. I don't want to go too much into that, but it does affect it financially. I can only speak to where I've been, and the side of town that I work on. Your school climate is dictated by football a lot. You know, maybe not. That's not the end all be all. But when you start talking about your football team is good and they win titles, it speaks to a level of maturity and leadership and winning attitude, and that translates to the building because those typically are the leaders in the building. Not just them, but people cheerleaders associate with football players and so forth and so on. So when you have that culture is built, it spreads. It spreads like wildfire, and I think it affects the culture and climate of the school. Normally, it's wild if the football team is a bad team, because you got to think that is you know, if a school has 150 popular kids, 60 of them, and I'm saying freshmen and seniors, 60 to 70 to 80 of them are football players, and your popular kids are typically your leaders. So if they have control and can manage things certain ways, I think it affects your school culture tremendously. And our administration understands that. Our principal says it all the time. He says it in staff meetings, you know. From the other sports perspective, I think that Coach Mays has said this in the coaches meeting. It kind of sets the bar, you know, how to work. He said he felt like we came in and changed the standard of work. What is off season? How much should you and your kids be up there? And I think, you know, a lot of programs have improved tremendously because of that. You know, there were times where the weight room wasn't as we didn't have to work around nobody to use the weight room. You know, now you gotta ask who got it at this time, who got it at that time, because you may go in there and they're in there and you got to get out. You know what I'm saying? So I think it affects it positively, you know, and I think other sports working around it, helps the football program tremendously too, because sometimes people move things and adjust so that we can be comfortable and that we can have this time, you know, even if may not be in season, you know. It's some good relationships where people are working together with that.
Coach, speak a little bit on. I seen you had brought a scout in. I think the guy that you knew from way back. Why did you? What was that about? I know you came down and visited and kind of checked y'all out. Well, speak about that a little bit. I'm always watching, man.
hey, he was trying to be inconspicuous, man. I don't even know how you know he's a scout. That's my boy, man. Antoine Murray. He's one of the Buccaneer scouts. And we were at Boise together. He was player personnel director. I lived with Antoine while I was in Boise.
Wow.
And he's just a good dude, good, genuine dude. His nephew played for North Texas, was going to play his senior day the next day, Saturday. So he was in town. He follows me on social media and we talk. And whenever it's like a bowl game or all-star game or something that was every January in Fort Worth. Every time he come in town, we get down and hang out. I go pick him up from the hotel every day. He call me and don't tell me ahead of time. He just call me. Hey, Weeze, I'm here. Where you at? I'm staying in sister. Come get me. That's Twan. A good friend of mine, man. Good dude. And for him, it was just I'm coming to watch South Oak Cliff. I'm from Florida. This is his words. I'm from Florida. When I see y'all remind me of Florida culture.
Yeah, I can see that.
Our culture. I love it. So I get to see it in person, and that was, we went to overtime, but he's out there watching and, his natural knack, he eval kids and all of that because he is one of the higher level scouts. But he was there. He enjoyed it, man. And now he called me. He said, hey, I'm going to be there. I need to be on the sideline. I want to see it, and he brought his nephews. He was on the sideline before the game, but the kind of guy he is, he went up in the stands, watched from the stands. I didn't see him no more. He called me, he ain't no look at me cat. That's why when you said I started laughing because I'm like, nah, Twan was there. But yeah, man. Just those relationships with a lot of guys like that, man. It's amazing when you cross paths with people, man, and you keep those relationships.
Kind of pivoting back to how we began when I say how you build this thing from the middle school level, Coach. Do you, as a varsity defensive coordinator, I think Coach might have cut out on us. Can you hear me, Coach?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cut out. We as a defensive, as the varsity guy, are you monitoring those freshman guys and those JV guys as far as saying this is that next pillar coming into the coming years? Like these 1 or 2 guys. This is going to be some of my leaders coming up. Like, do you mentally take note of some of those young guys coming up? And then I want to pivot and do kind of a U-turn in how important is Little League culture? I know that sounds very odd, but how important is Little League culture to what you guys are building?
Okay, so the first thing is we coach those guys. We don't have varsity coaches.
Okay.
Everybody coaches everybody. You may have your assignment on game days. Mine kind of moves according to the group. I coached freshmen a lot this year because I knew we were losing a lot on varsity, and I knew them youngsters was going to have to play. Not all of them, but, they was going to have to be ready, whether for this coming year or the next year. And I did this 2023 class. I coached the freshmen. I kind of make sure I try to stay in with those, and I coach them because I ain't easy to play for.
Yeah.
CJ typically plays, coaches the JV kids on that night. But sometimes with us, we split a lot of times. So one got to go one place, one got to go the other. Coach Spencer moves according to the group that's coming. He's been a freshman guy. He's been a JV guy. You just kind of got to monitor it. But we're not the varsity coach labeled staff that stands on the side at the freshman game. You've been to one of our freshman games. You can't tell who ain't. You know what I'm saying?
I noticed that.
In that thing, it don't matter who we playing. Setting the standard early is important. The other piece of it, Little League. For us, man, we are rooted in Little League. It's important to us, but it has a lot to do with our backgrounds. You know what I mean? It's the foundation for a lot of the kids, superstars or not. And you know, we go to practices. We go to practice, sit in our car. We like, you know, Todd he gonna go watch football.
Yeah.
We go to games. We go to the, you know, we try to stay out the way for the most part. We're not going and taking pictures to say we're there.
Yeah.
Trying to kiss babies. You know, and we might, you know, I used to try to make sure I wore sock stuff. Now I try to not do it, but it don't matter now. You know what I'm saying? With our social media and branding, people know who we are.
Yeah.
If they didn't grow up with you or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, we kind of just go watch 7-on-7 tournaments. The little kids, we just watch, and it ain't you're not watching for who's great. You know, you just more are if you can go support and be present and make it a thing to go. More people go, more money's made, more funding goes into those teams. You know, when it's time to go to nationals and stuff, we continuously, you know, if we see it, we try. If it's an option, we'll anonymously donate. Cause we don't want to shout out because he gave this or shout out to my boy. I've seen me and Todd respond like, man, come on, man, like come on, dog, you know. But it's very important, you know, for us on our side of town, man. That is the feeder pattern for these schools. You know, the middle school level, it's solid. You know what I'm saying? And some teams are good. You know, Holmes, Coach Jones over at Holmes does a great job. That program runs. I think, you know, a couple of schools have had some talent here and there. You know, Jones is the only one that I personally have seen year in and year out. You know, almost on some Charles Walden stuff from Adwell, where it was like you knew it was going to be structured. It was going to be this. You know, his kids going to run on and off the field like it's hard. You know, like that little stuff you see, and you're like, okay, they teaching. They're teaching culture. They're teaching character. You know, over there. So it's not all of them aren't like that. You know, the little league teams are more common, the ones that are doing it right and teaching the kids how to work and all of that. And so it's important that we get behind it. You know, I think too often people that don't understand the culture try to tear things down because it's uncomfortable for them. Like you said, how important is the little league? You was like, I know that ain't common, but for us, that's normal. You know what I'm saying? That's okay. You know, people will look at it and try to frown on it or speak negatively about it. But that's our culture. You know, the battle and, you know, battle is a huge little league 7-on-7 brand. You know, it's bigger than Nike and Adidas. You know, we would battle. We the first high school sponsored by Battle in the state of Texas.
Wow.
You know? But again, it fits our culture. You know what I mean? It does. You know, it's true sponsorship. It's not just attaching to a name because it looks cool, because it's popular. You know, it's interactive. You know what I mean? And a lot of those things are important with the way we just want to do business.
And I think that's important too. And I'm glad how you kind of came full circle with it. Yes, the football aspect, but then supporting them community wise, pouring back into them. And the little kids, they see this stuff, man, because I remember years back, man, a kid from one of the local teams, he was saying how good a kid is. And he was like, man, we asked the little kid, man, you know, where you want to go to school? They just shouting out Duncanville. So it's funny because the little kids, you know, they see the high schools. So it's going to come full circle. I know you know, these different schools, the kids see it. And I know y'all going to be right in those ranks. We're going to get ready to wrap it up, Coach. I want you to talk a little bit about that documentary. I can't leave without hitting on that documentary. And then I think I pretty much covered a lot of stuff. And then I think we should be good to end on that one.
So it was really good. It was really informative. The guy that actually I guess produced and directed Brian Smith, he was around a lot after we won. You know, he was around for workouts. He was around for spring ball. He was around the summer workouts, 2-a-days. You know, but working with him, you know, I had a lot of the video footage. You know, he went and found some stuff that was like, what? Where'd you find it? Just from the 60s and 70s. But I mean, it was good, man. You know, you kind of like I am, where I was kind of left wanting more. I wanted more of the Norm Jet story. You know, I felt like if they wanted to, that could have been a 10-part series, 10 episodes on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. That part with Todd's grandfather and Norm Jett was the part that intrigued me.
Yeah.
You know, but I like lost history. You know what I mean? I like to learn about. You know, we got a alum Gary Bird, who is like a Sox statistician. He always getting on Facebook putting up this stuff, and he asked people in a post, I want to say about a week ago, you know, how would y'all feel if I did a 700-page thing on the Sox football history? Who would read it? Who would? And you know, people responding and whatever. And I'm like, man, I would rather read that on the PBIL. You know, give me some lost history.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sock, we still living in the peak right now. Yeah. You know, hopefully it's not the peak. Hopefully it goes even higher, whatever that is in high school football. But we're living in it, so it's not as attractive of a story for me. I want to know about the stuff that's old. You know, the U was a great Netflix because it's old.
Yeah, now real talk. Yep.
You know, the Lakers thing, you know, it was awesome because right now that ain't what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, Showtime and all of that. So, you know, Jordan's thing with the whole
Last Dance.
You know, so I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything they did about it. You know, I appreciate how people are attaching on and trying to tell the story of inner city football. What we go through, our triumphs, our failures, even us being on the magazine cover in the article, Ishmael, Ish did a wonderful job telling that story. That the magazine was, for me, even better, you know, because
I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Yep.
Dave Campbell's, you know, just being on the cover, the cover of it, not just like, oh, look at me, but just understanding what it meant, you know, the first Black high school adults to be on there. You know what I mean? And the story that came with it and the hope that it's given everybody and to be able to come back and do it again, you know, getting everybody's best game. And it was different than the first year. We had to grind it out, you know, but that documentary, man, them honoring those kids that stood up for it, you know, those 4 kids, you know, one of them was a DB, one of them, Dave, the quarterback who kind of was the leader of it. He's still around all the time. He just graduated, got his master's.
Wow.
He was in there working out just today. So, you know, just people being able to see the story. I wish more people could have saw it. I know kind of how Bally's is. Everybody don't have it on every network. You know, you got this kind of cable that. But a lot of people that I know saw it and they appreciated it, and they learned a lot. And that's what it's about. It's about sharing that story that's not told, and we intentionally try to make sure we make the narrative fit what we want it to fit. We don't want nobody else to tell our story, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's good too. You when we was texting or talking to some, and you told me you were going to kind of incorporate it in your class, you know, kind of, you know, let them watch. I think it's so powerful. You know, everybody can bash the kids on education, what they're doing, what they're doing. What are we doing to fit what we're teaching to fit them, whether it's history or anything else? And I think that's really what drew me to you guys. Yeah, the football and winning is cool, but you know, I'm kind of deeper. The winning is good, but when the Coach Todd can tell me what Southdallas looked like this 40 years ago, and you know, that stuff that's what gets me going. I'm like, wow, you know, and this how Oak Cliff looking, this how it used to look like. To me, Coach, you don't get that in high school football in this state. And I think that's what sets you guys apart. It's one thing to win, it's another thing to win and know your history.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you guys, to me, separate yourself.
You got to understand why you are where you are. You know, you got to teach our kids why it's a big deal. You know, they don't come in just knowing. You got to teach them why it's important. Why when we're playing a school like P&G, the comments under the posts on social media from major outlets like Dave Campbell, why the comments are like that. Wow. You know, you got to explain. Them kids see that and they ask like, "Hey, Coach, why are they talking like that?" You know, it's important to know that. You know, it's important to be conscious. You know, especially when you're mentoring and teaching young Black men. You know, Black and brown men. You know, it's important to teach those kids that, and it's important to us because you know, if we didn't know our history, we wouldn't have as much pride. And like we talking about, we said the most important thing was continuity and consistency within who's on the staff. We wouldn't be there if we didn't have the pride that we have, if we didn't understand all that we understand about the profession, why it is the way it is, what drives it, how we're seen, how we were seen, how you know those things, and you're able to make your own play to try to change those things. And that was very intentional for us. And like I said, man, when the wins come with it, you know, we can do all the branding we want, but if we don't win big, you know, it's just a hype video. You know, now people hear what you say. You say things, they take you a different level of seriousness, because at the end of the day, we've done something that nobody's ever done. And it's a reason for that, you know. And it's a lot of moving pieces to that. And it's fun, man. It's fun to share the story. You know, I mean, this is what, the third year I done came? Three in a row. You know, I talked to you after we lost to Frisco second round. You know, I talked to you after we won it the first time, you know. And
I got, let me stop you real quick. What I think I love about Coach, a lot of people don't know this. I know at least 2 or 3 games I did it, but I text you before a game. How you feel, Coach? And you're not gonna sugarcoat. Sometimes, you know, I think Lancaster, which be fascinating to kind of go back to that game. But you said they're a tough team. You know, we play well, we might not win. DeSoto, you said, Duncanville, you said that's the best defense I've seen since I've been here. I love how you're honest when you go into these games rather than just saying, "Oh, we're gonna blow them out. You're gonna blow every team out by 30." Now, some games you say it's gonna be tough, and I appreciate your honesty in you know, diagnosing these things as well too, Coach.
Yeah, man. You know, you got to know yourself, and you got to know your opponent, and you got to be. You can't expect to beat people or do what you're supposed to do if you downplaying or underestimate. You know, you got to be able to know what good looks like. You know, Lancaster, you know, of the 3 schools, you know, Lancaster lost a heartbreaker playoff game. You know what I'm saying? But and because of that, I don't think they get the credit that how good of a team they were this year. But you know, man, going into the game, we scheduled them for a reason. You know, we knew we would be riding high coming off. The kids would be riding high, something they've never done. And you know, they showed up and they played against Duncanville, and I think Lancaster punched us in the mouth. They came out with, I think it was a little satisfaction coming off the week before, and it was a concern. And in pregame, you know, me and Todd, it was a little more extra. Our kids they're not like talkers. You know what I'm saying? Our kids, they know a lot of kids. When we play Duncanville, DeSoto, Lancaster, they 7-on-7 with them. They know them, but our kids ain't real chirpy. You know, the coaches, we can be chirpy. You know, our kids kind of like let us do that kind of thing, which that wasn't gonna happen that game. And they, it was a lot of chirping from our side. And you know, me and Coach Todd kind of, once we kind of got it stopped, we kind of like, I don't know about this, dog. You know, when cats start getting out of character and acting like something they ain't, you don't typically play good in football, because now you're trying to be something you're not. And in football, it's like a fight. Somebody gonna punch you in your face. You know what I'm saying? And when you get punched in the face after acting like something you wouldn't, that pride is hurt more. And how do you respond? Everybody can't come back from that, you know. So we were kind of walking off together, and I'm like, God, this ain't who we are. I don't know about this one. We're like, yeah, boy. I hope they play, you know. You can tell, you can feel it. You know what I'm saying? So you know, man, it's just a blessing, man.
And I gotta say this too, Coach. Y'all freshman team went undefeated, right?
No, we lost to Argyle twice.
Okay, well, JV. Well, I thought so, but one of them had a good year though. Was it the freshman had a good year though?
Yeah, they both had it. I mean, JV lost only to Duncanville. We were figuring out the quarterback situation. That's first game. We didn't lose no more. And then the freshmen beat Duncanville, DeSoto, Lancaster,
which is huge.
Well, Lancaster didn't play for some reason, but
I
think they got blew out by somebody else that we played, so it wasn't like. And then we lost Argyle twice.
Okay. So, was that a close one, or that they beat you pretty bad?
The first one they beat us good. The second one was close.
Okay. The only reason I'm saying this because if everything stay together, this thing can continue to it will continue to blossom. You know,
our thing is, you know, a lot of these freshman classes, like the 2023 coach, we file posts. He posted this a lot during the season, class 2023, and he has their freshman picture, like after I think they won a title or whatever. And we lost more than half of those kids in the picture.
Wow.
You know, we lost more than half.
Wow.
So that's common for us. You know what I mean? So you expect to lose some. You just hope you don't lose the leaders. You're gonna lose some to the streets. You're gonna lose some to, he quit. Because he was battling with this guy, and this guy got offers, and he didn't want. You're gonna just where we are. You're gonna lose some kids, and hopefully you don't lose. Yeah, for the 23 class and 24 class, we haven't lost the key kids. And that's been important. Yeah. And so hopefully we can follow suit with the next two classes. You ain't gonna win them all. All you can do is try to help as much as you can. We ain't never been one to try to hold a kid hostage or nothing, but we don't end up with a lot of transfers either. They kind of just end up out of the game. They don't play no more. For whatever reason. It's for some of them it's life or death, man. And a lot of times in this winning state, because it's we winning it, people forget that. We got a 2023 kid, on trial. His trial ain't started but for murder. You know what I'm saying? That would have played. You know what I mean? So we fighting those battles. A lot of these kids, football saved my life kind of kid.
Yeah, I was just thinking that football it's something different, and I think that's not to bash the suburbs or the whatever, but it's a different type of animal when you got to deal with it.
Yeah, it is. I think everybody has their own issues. Yep. That adjust to where they are. That's our issues, and for me, that's I grew up in it. That's the issue. I know. I know how to combat as best I can. And that's those issues are what drives me. That's why I wanted to come back to Dallas. Yeah, I wanted to be an inner city coach to affect those kind of kids and hopefully bring something. Like we talked about it. I was listening to the first one the other day. My brother, those experiences. My brother took me to Miami Northwestern. Me being in 5th grade, 6th grade.
Wow.
I always wanted that here.
I didn't know you went there. I don't remember you saying that. He took you to know. Wow, just to kind of experience it.
Yeah. So in hindsight, my oldest brother played at the University of Miami in the mid-90s.
You said that. Yep.
His true freshman year was 95. That was right after they went on probation and they banned the players from hanging with Uncle Luke Campbell. Wow. He was roommates with the quarterback at the time, Ryan Collins. So, when you got boosters, you kicking it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so where they hung out was at the high school. They would go to Miami Northwestern's workouts and sit and chill. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so my mom works for American Airlines still to this day. I would be down there with him, in the summer at points. And I'd just be little brother tagging along. And you talking about back when Trick Daddy was with him, before he was somebody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You were around these people. But seeing that program and how they worked, that wasn't that's not what I saw here. That because I would follow it too. However I could. It wasn't like the internet. It was ways you could find out who won, what did they do, and they were winning big. They were a big time football culture. You had former pro receivers, and linebackers going back to coach because their stuff is different. And I wanted that here. That was always a dream that I had as a high school coach. And, to be doing what we're doing is a dream, for me personally. So, it's just this whole thing, man. I'm just kind of taking it in. It's still surreal. Yeah. People ask all the time, how does it feel, man, when you feel like you're called to do something and you feel like you actually had a power to be a part of the driving force of it, you believe in it, you believe it's going to happen. It's not like the moment still hasn't hit me. Maybe at some point in my career, I'll be able to look back. I still say, make the comment like, damn, we won 2 titles.
Right? Yeah.
You know, it's you work so hard and you get on that hamster wheel and you grind and you know with a goal. And the goal may not even be a state championship. You know, for me the goal was about getting kids in school always.
Yeah.
You know, and you know we won state on Friday and me and the DBs was back in the weight room on Monday. You know what I'm saying? And them older kids, y'all take y'all break, get your bodies. You youngsters, y'all didn't play like that. Come on, let's get to it because we got to get ready because y'all got to get to school. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think mentally people that are made up like that are able to really understand in the moment. That's why you see a lot of times because I'm like that, I'm not in the moment. I'm not in a lot of pictures. I'm not in it's intentional. It's not being defiant. You know, the parade this year, I was in the crowd. You know, my folks from South Louisiana. I didn't get on the float to walk and wave.
Yeah.
I walked through the crowd to be in the part of the parade. You know, I wanted to experience that part of it. I don't want to be up high. I want to see what it's like for everybody else.
Yeah.
I had that experience in college. You know, I went to school in South Louisiana Lafayette. As a player, I never experienced homecoming. I just went to the party that night, right?
Yeah.
Where after my career was over and I went to homecoming, it was the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Going through the tailgating, and they got all this free South Louisiana food where we'll go pay $30 at Papa the Host for it, but they handing it out for free and it's better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They just hand out, then you got this 10, you got that 10. You know, that experience taught me a lot. Like being a part of the show, you never get to experience the show and what everybody goes through. So, you know, when we win it, I take it in, man. That experience from the last year, I haven't spoke on it till recently because I didn't realize until recently it was unique. When everybody was in the middle of the field and they were doing a trophy presentation, I immediately after we won it, when it sat on the bench, you know, tears rolling down my eyes, and looked at the stand and just looked at everybody. And man, it was people. It wasn't a dry in the building in the stands. You know, I know cats I grew up with that's hard as they come. That like, bro, y'all had me up there crying. You know, I was crying, my girl was crying, my mom was crying, you know, and they ain't go to side.
Yeah.
You know, but being able to look up and see that, I wouldn't have seen that if I was over there with the trophy. You know what I'm saying? Those are the stuff that I like to see those things. You know, so one day it hit me, man. You know, we gonna keep doing what we doing until the Lord tell us it's time. You know what I'm saying? But the way we cut, it's gonna take some crazy to stop this train. I can say that.
Man, that's you pretty much dropped it, man. Hour 41 minutes in. Let me ask you this too, Coach. You probably don't really got an idea on this, but I was just wondering it. You know, and this don't have nothing to do with soccer, but I know how we talk. So you know, you see that Cedar Hill has a position open. What do you think about that? You know, just as far as you're outside, you have no connection to the school. What do you think about that? Because that's one of those schools that was kind of looked upon as a Southern Dallas school. Well, it still is, because a lot of flight went out there too.
My personal opinion on that, the greatness of somebody like Joey McGuire, Reginald Samples, Jason Todd, they can mask issues that you have so well and make you feel like they're not issues, to where when you lose that master class of a job person, you start to these issues start coming up that you don't even notice. I use a perfect example, and this is factual. This isn't negative about nobody. We just talked about how well Joey McGuire worked with trainers and people like that. I remember when Coach Lynn first got the job, the first thing he did was hop on Twitter and say, Cedar Hill kids don't play 7-on-7 for nobody. Total opposite. You know what I'm saying? So where you have a Cedar Hill program, you start looking into the makeup. You know, the bond that they're trying to pass for a new stadium, for this, for that, keeps getting denied by the community. Like, you start diving into
I didn't even know that, Coach. I didn't know they did a bond for a stadium. See, that's why I like when we talk, because it's never just football, but it's football, but it's economics. I didn't even know about when was this?
It was about it's dealing with facilities. You know, it wasn't just a stadium. So you know that kind of stuff starts playing in. You know, when you got somebody that can do more with less, and especially the time period we're talking about. You know, that was 18 years ago when he got the job. Yeah. So things get outdated in 20 years, man. True, you know, true. The lack of perception. Somebody doing a great job can hide it. Talent can hide it. You can feel like you're doing it right. You got it done right. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I think they're in a position where it's. I think they are looking in the mirror now. You know, you win 2 games at Cedar Hill. I don't care what's going on. That's hard. You know what I'm saying? I think now everybody's looking in the mirror and trying to figure out why them. You know, and nobody on that side of town has been through that.
True,
you know?
Very true.
I think Duncanville under Dykes went through it. You know, which is why I give Samples the credit that he has. You know, he's taken it to a level that it's never been at. You know, I think the head coach, I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head. The one that won a state championship passed away. I think he had 2 really good years. But we talking about Samples being, you know, it's like 6 years. Like regional finals, state, semis, state. You know.
And he's beating the DeSoto's and the Cedar Hills candidly. That's another thing we got to say.
Yeah, they're the kings. You know, that's why we schedule them. We're going to schedule them until we take it. Yeah. And then if they want to schedule us, you know, you see how that word flipped. If they want to schedule us, we'll keep playing, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I think a job like that, man, you know, I'm not even talking about who should get it, could get it, is interested. Yeah. I'm just saying from the Cedar Hill side of it, me as an outsider, I think they got to look in the mirror and there's some things they got to make right. And that could be, you know, I ain't inside. That could be how you know, Dallas, a part of I've been here 8 years, and the pay from my first year to now is way different. You know what I'm saying? How we're paid, how we're compensated as coaches, as football coaches. You know, it ain't just the head coach. I know the head coaches got that big raise, but in my opinion, they were the last ones to get paid. Everybody else, the pay went up, you know. And so, you know, man, a job like that coming open, you know, if they figure it out, it's a great job, you know. I think we put a lot on talent often, but it's a reason that, you know, through the history of UIL, all of these talented teams, you know, now Cedar Hill got 3 titles, everybody else got 2, including South. You know, that's not a lot of titles for how talented. You know, when we win, that's the excuse. Yeah. It's so talented. They got all that talent. Well, okay. Well, why now? Why all of a sudden? Because it got to be something other than talent. Because it's been a lot of talented schools. You know, DeSoto has historically been talented pretty much since 1994. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And they got 2 titles. Yep. So it's something shifted. Something has shifted to where these schools are figuring it out. And of course, I'm gonna say I think it's coaching. I think it's structure. I think it's organization. I think we're getting access to information that we didn't have as Black coaches. Now, I think that access to information has grown, and we are finding our way. You know, so it's easy to blame talent and, you know, all of that when it's over. When you lost, you know what I'm saying, or when you're scared you're gonna lose. But wasn't nobody complaining about the talent that Kimball had when they lost to Highland Park in 2008 by 40. You know what I'm saying? It was Division I kids on that team. You know, every team that goes deep at this point, at that point in the playoffs, 4th, 5th, 6th round, is talented. You know, it's a misconception of a lot of it. And again, I love it. Yeah, I love it because, you know, I know the difference and I know the job that we do, and I respect the job that others do. You know, the head coach at PNG, we GA'd together at Andy. Okay. I knew.
We talked about him on the last episode, which is funny.
Yeah, we talked about Jeff. You know what I'm saying? It's funny he the head coach, and he's doing what that was year 1, and he in the state championship. You know what I'm saying? Melissa, they do a really good job coaching. You know, we respect them cats. You know, some of the adjustments and stuff they do. Argyle historically has done a really good job. You know, Midlothian Heritage, for me as a defensive guy, did the best job offensively against us this year. You know, They scored.
What it is about them, Coach? I know they got a few some talent out there, which along with that flight. But what is it about?
I mean, for me, going against it, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback is his stepson, I believe.
Okay.
He was the head coach at Southwest Assembly of God, SAGU, last year.
Okay.
So he was a head college coach. He's an offensive guy. He called his own plays. So you're talking about access to information. So when you're prepping for a team like that, you can see how the scheme is made around what messes with the defense. It's not just running plays. You can see the difference in what they did. And you're like, ooh, this is good stuff. Ooh, this is good stuff. You know what you're up against. And that game was the game this year where it was a chess match back and forth the whole game. There was adjustments on both sides. I'm just talking about us on D and them on O. It was back and forth. You can't. It wasn't no one adjustment that you got. You had to go deep into your bag. They had to go deep into their bag. Your kids had to understand. It was constant adjustments. Players making plays. That's why I say, when people start talking about how talented,
it's not fair, really, man.
I mean, life ain't fair. You know what I'm saying? But the thing we can do is we keep winning. The perception before now, for a lot of teams, especially on this side of town, was you had to have an elite type athlete or quarterback to win a state championship. Well, Will Little is a good quarterback at South Oak Cliff. You know what I'm saying? But we wanted with a kid who has never been considered elite. He ain't finna just run. He ain't got 20, 30 alphas. You know what I'm saying? That was not believed to be able to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's pieces of that. And more than anything, we won 2 different titles 2 different ways.
Y'all did. Yep.
That's not common. People play their game and they win it the way they win it, and that's how we play. We won a game. We won a title as the greatest show on turf with the Kevin Henry Jennings show. You know what I'm saying? And defense really just needed to get some stops. If we just be
good run game too that year, boy. Heck of a run game.
We ran the ball solid. You know what I'm saying? Pretty good. And then this year it was special teams and defense, and ball control. Run the ball, punt. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to coach to change your style of play like that. You have to be able to adjust your kids, adjust your scheme, game to game. We had to play the same system for the most part, round 2 through 5. Wow. So we couldn't come out and just play the same scheme every week. It had to be very calculated versus what somebody's strength was, but also understanding what we showed last week, knowing that these people can coach too, and they will have prepped for it. So the athlete part, I love that. I get a kick out of the excuses.
Coach, because I'm gonna say this, Coach, because they imagine what you guys do if they. And you guys have athletes, some, so I don't want to make this sound like you listen.
Yeah, we got kids. Yeah,
but can they imagine if you guys had athletes, Coach?
Well, I'm gonna say it like this. Everybody talk about how important athletes is, especially when they lose to a black school. Yeah. But if we go through all them applications to Cedar Hill, I bet none of them applied for it. So I'm just saying, it's easy to blame that, but why you ain't trying to get to that school? Yeah. What is it about the school that you don't want to coach? That you don't want to coach? If we got Ollie, because Cedar Hill got kids. They don't have kids. They beat the brakes off us at 7-on-7 or something. And they got line. So they got kids. You know what I'm saying? So if the excuse is gonna be, I've heard it many times again, out of the profession, in the profession, sometimes teams are just outmatched. You got to make the game fit your strengths. On the college level, you can't tell me that TCU across the board was not less than Michigan across the board, player for player. You can't tell me they wasn't. But you got to find a way to make the matchups fit what you got. And the moment you try to use an excuse like, they just got more, well, you're going to lose, and you should lose, and I hope you lose. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not what a coach should be.
Let me ask you this, Coach. When you go deep into the playoffs, man, our office shut down, but we started it back up. We always do this. Now, when you talk about like Argyle and these teams, these really suburb teams, if you will, do they play a different type of style of football than you used to see throughout the year?
No. I think they're built, talent, right?
Yeah.
Their talent is more up front, which is where you win realistically.
Yep.
So, P&G was bigger than us. Argyle was bigger than us.
Yep.
Melissa was bigger than us. Of course, you got Big Bubba, so people look at, but they were bigger than us. Them teams could lean on us. And, I think the matchup was, we had to try to make it a skill game. You know what I'm saying? And they had to try to keep it or make it a front game. And both teams were good enough at skill or up front to where it wasn't like it's just going to be a mismatch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because you're doing, we come out against P&G and just go 5 wides and just throw the ball. We ain't guaranteed to win that game. That's not I've seen mismatch games. And that's those teams. The style is, man, championship football. It ain't changed. Championship football is, can you run the football? Can you stop the run? Can you tackle? And limit explosive plays. Some passing is explosive plays, but so it plays a part. But that championship football is run the ball, stop the run. Be sound on special teams. Don't give up too many explosive plays.
Yeah, and special teams.
And all of those teams, they're coming up from 4A. They've been in 5A, or they coached at schools. They're like, I look at P&G staff. Jeff Joseph, his dad is, King of Katy, right? His offensive guys are South Lake and Lake Travis guys.
Wow.
So, they're young coaches that are from within that, from what I understand. Those are winning coaches. They have won a lot of games. So when you dig into that, they don't play a different style, because if you look at our schedule, we played a bunch of champions. So Duncanville, they play that style. DeSoto this year with Tiger Ridden played that style. They're giving that boy that ball 30 plus times, running that ball, stopping the run. You know what I'm saying? Lancaster, you look at them in Longview, dog fight. And then Paris Episcopal, who beat the 5AD1 champ and 4AD1 champ. So, we're tied to all of the championship football. So when it came time to play those teams, they played championship football. We had played it before. We beat Parrish, had to come back, beat them in the fourth quarter, running the ball, couldn't panic and start just slanging it around. And, it wasn't different for us now. Now, some years ago, it probably would have been, to be honest, but I think we've gotten to that point where we also play championship football. And so, the ball got to drop as it may when we play anybody, and that's the goal. That was the goal, to get to this point. And now the goal is to beat these people, the teams that, we got to beat the Duncanvilles. We got to beat the Duncanvilles, the DeSotos, the Lancaster. We have to win those games, and that's the next part of the process. It ain't no, okay, we won state, we sit back, we eat good, get fat. You know what I'm saying? It's still, we're not going out there to compete. We're going out there to try to win. This year we fell short, and playing all 3 in a row in itself is not just playing one. You know what I'm saying? So if you go 3-0, and I say 3-0 with no disrespect to Paris, I'm just talking about our side.
Yeah.
If you go 3-0, you had to conquer something.
Yeah.
Because this year, that third game, that second half, man, we was beat up. On defense, I can speak to defense.
Yeah, that against I thought so too. And there was the one game I said, man, it seemed like they're a little tired or something. It seemed a little different. Yeah.
I think it was a couple of things. We have some kids that grew up with those kids. And I think they pressed in the moment, trying. The game was bigger than football for them.
Okay.
And it didn't have to be, but your kids, that's a lesson you got to learn. And I've told him, reliable, Abdul Muhammad, one of the most reliable kids I've ever coached, played his worst game of his career by far. But it meant too much to him. You could see he was trying to do too much. He's never like that. You know what I'm saying? And then just the wear and tear of running into people that are physical like you for weeks before. You know, you look up in that third quarter and you got some guys in that were young that played later in the year, but at that point in the year they hadn't really played. But it was like, hey man, we got to play next week too now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you start seeing them youngsters in there, you know. So and Duncanville was that way at shoot. Duncanville, I was down to number 7, 8 in the secondary in the game at the end.
Wow. Is it just the physicality of the game?
It's week 1. It's hot. Everybody, you just running into people.
Yeah,
you know?
That was a physical game, boy.
It was a physical game, dog. Like I do my self scout stuff, so I've done all my numbers for the most part. And that game, there's some plays that I feel like, you know, one of our corners, he's an early grad at Rice, JC. You know, in game, he missed a couple tackles, and I didn't feel like he played as physical in the moment because I felt like he missed some tackles. But watching that game now, man, he was playing physical. He was running into people too. You know, it was one of them games, and that's what Duncanville does. You know, and when people play soccer, that's what people say now. You know, you're gonna come out of it kind of beat up, and the playoffs was like that too. You know,
yeah, it was.
Gauntlet, man.
Yeah. Coach, is it ever you're speaking about size, which is so funny because when I think of suburban school, you think of big on line, big on the O line. You guys weren't as big, but you're strong. Is there a correlation between that size and winning, or is it strength? How does that work? Because I was so fascinated how you talked about scheme and different stuff, but I was fascinated how you guys were some smaller than some of those schools, but you were just as physical.
Yeah, I think
that's surprising to me.
I think sometimes people associate size with length because long arms is an advantage up front. You know, we have some guys who aren't as tall, but they have size and strength, so they can play with those guys. On the defensive side for sure. Offensively, on the O line, I think we were good size. We ran into some of them fronts though. You know, like I think of Melissa and PNG, and our guy had 2 Power 5 Division I tackles. I mean, you know, like they played like a 3-3-5. So them 2 cats, I mean, they was real. You know, so I think it's how you train your kids' bodies.
Okay.
You know? If you're expecting the kid to just come in and be strong, you're expecting the kid to bail you out of what you don't know. You know, 4 years later, that kid's body should have molded. He should have leaned. You know what I'm saying? And you have to work out a certain way. You have to work out a certain amount of time to get them to do that. And I don't think everybody understands that. I think people think lifting weights is just lifting weights. We got to lift, get strong. Yeah, if you do something, you're gonna get stronger. But that body changing is when you know. What do you need your body type to be? You know what I'm saying? And you have the strength to mold a body. Now, are you gonna go from Dexter's Laboratory to Johnny Bravo body? Nah, but you can mold. Man, I just told my age. You can mold bodies as within a program, you know, and that's how you do things is so important, you know. So I think that's what you kind of see, you know. Kids come in one way, you know. Our defensive tackle Keith Smith, he came in as a tight end, pudgy, you know. He was a pudgy kid. I think Keith at one point was about 300, 310. He played this year about 270. You know, he didn't just lose weight, he leaned. You know what I mean? And so those kind of things are important, you know, shifting, you know, like I say, people see the end result of a lot of kids and just assume they got the kid. You know, I've been saying this, you know, we have 6 Division I secondary guys in 2023 class. You know, it's a lot of molding that goes on. You know, you have to mold these kids physically and mentally, and that's a skill set for a coach. You know, that's a developmental mindset. Some guys are just scheme guys. Some guys are just skill guys. Most of the time, those guys are trainers. You know, to find that balance and do both at a high level, I think is where you start seeing elite football played on every level, because there's levels to everything. You know what I'm saying? It is. And this game is full of trends, and the game become popular. But, you know, if you study yourself and constantly adjust as a coach, the game doesn't pass you by until you feel like you know. That's when you're in danger as a coach. And that's when your program is in danger, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I love how you said that too, Coach, because we can't get enamored on size, you know. And it's not even in high school all the time you're going to have that guy that's just, you know, I mean, Duncanville had a linebacker that was nutty. You know, those genetic freaks. You got to, I think Rick is like that. You know, that you're linebacker, you're just genetic freaks. But that's not the norm, though. Yeah, that's not the norm, though. So does it take the body time to progress, or is just getting stronger more important than just being huge? Because you're not going to get a lot of guys just huge. Is that right, Coach?
Right. Yeah, I think it's about getting as strong as you can. The issue is trying to get strong too fast. Most people require you to gain weight.
Okay.
Gaining weight limits mobility. So now you can get big, but can you hit a moving target or use your strength on a moving target? I think that's the issue. You know, in football, in the weight room, we have had a bodybuilder mindset for so long. And about 10 years ago, I know in college, it started to evolve. Kaz at TCU, the strength and conditioning coach, he was at Baylor. He was one of the main guys I remember. And when I was at A&M, the guy at A&M did it really well also. It starts to move to functional lifts. It stopped being about bodybuilding. You see A&M at the time with all those draft picks and how well they tested. It was never about heavy weight. It was about muscle memory, muscle endurance, and flexibility and functional movement, things that you actually do in the game. And so as people start to, and all colleges don't think that way, but my background is track. So, you know, how can I translate me being a track fast cat to the football field, you know, physically? So you start looking into all of that stuff, man. It's like I said, it's levels to everything, and it's so many moving parts, and it's so much about access to information, dog. That's my biggest thing with a lot of what people see. It's the openness and willingness to be able to hear new ways, study them, and understand what is the best way that fits you. That can be schematically, that can be off season. Our off season has adjusted tremendously since we first got there. How we lift, how we do things. You know, I think we lifted as a team. Now we split skills and big, and you know, we work out in pods depending on body type, and you know, our lifts adjust to each group, and you know, it's the access to information, man. You know, our last OC, Jacoby Walker, worked in strength and conditioning in college at two different schools, two different Division I schools.
Oh, wow.
You know? So you start dealing with people who have access to that type of information. It ain't just a guy to say, I want to be over the weight room. You know, it's a cat that has experience with how to structure and organize it at a different level, and what the lifts do and why they are certain ways and so forth and so on. So, you know, man, strength, I think strength is a relative term. You know, ain't never a point on the football field where you do a 1 rep max. Yeah. Everything is twitch. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different philosophies, dog. It's some people that have won many state championships doing it opposite. I think it's for us and our customer, we have found our formula for universally how we need to do things. But I would never go and be like, no, y'all doing it all wrong. Y'all need to do it like this. No, you need to run this scheme. No, you need to run this coverage. Yeah. No, I don't believe that. I think the pieces that you have, as far as the grown folks, they know what they know. Mm-hmm. I can't force you to teach something you don't know how to teach. Yeah. And I can't teach something that I don't like. That was a perfect example. Me and Coach Ty, first game, Cedar Hill, we finna play Jordan McGuire fresh off a state championship. Ty broke it down. You know, he coming off being a DC. And he come in, get on the board, and we gonna do it this way, this, and we gonna do this like this, and we gonna call this, and we gonna run this versus this and this. And everybody sat there and listened and let him finish, and it was cool. And he looked at me like, "You good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, you gotta call it though." Yeah. And he looked like, "What you mean?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know none of that. I don't know how that functions." You know that. You call it, and I make sure the secondary execute.
Yeah.
And he was like, as a new head coach, he's like, nah. I'm like, well, I can't. I don't know that. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I know. You know what I mean? I know what I know. I know what we did in spring ball. I know what we did in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That I can't. I'm not the kind of person to even try to play like I know all of everything, and I know that I can go study something. You know, but I ain't finna wholesale change away from what I do know. You know, I can try to make it match what I know, like I tried to do the first time with A&M system, and it was all wrong. You know what I mean? I think it's that honesty within self. You know, we all specialize in something. You know, it's something like I think I've told you this before. It's something about you that makes you be the person that can get the guests you get. You know what I'm saying? It's something that a specialty that you have. I look at the people that you have on here, and it'd be like, oh, he got oh, how he get him? You know what I'm saying? That's it. These people ain't in one circle. You constantly are getting and pulling people from different places. You know what I'm saying? And that's a skill set. You know. And we all got our skill sets, and we all ain't great at everything.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I think it's for us. It's a lot of that around staff. It's a lot of guys who don't feel like they know everything, but they feel like they understand. So if you got an idea, you got to be able to explain it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too, Coach, because when you think about you got to keep evolving. And you think about trainers, you know, for a while, like 7-on-7, certain guys that are training, like Houston got, I think, Footwork King or something. It's a couple of guys. You know, I'm sure when they got started, a lot of people probably laughed at them and said, man, what are they doing? But then they changed some guys in the NFL, and it's like, okay, maybe we should pay attention. I think that's kind of how it is. It's amazing how certain stuff is looked down upon by people who think they know it all until it kind of get popular. Then it's like, okay, maybe we should take notes. And it's kind of like with y'all, it's like y'all don't know it all, but y'all know something. Y'all gonna keep evolving. I think that's very powerful.
One thing we know is how to win in the city in Dallas. Yeah, that's what we know. You know, that's what we claim to know. And you know, me as a Kimmel guy, that's where I get in trouble with my people, because I'll be quick to be like, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't right. You gotta do it this. You do it this way. Yeah. And like you said, the reaction is typically, man, he think he know. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, the experiences you learn, and history teaches you. And if you research history and you're open about it, you understand this has only happened like this. This has only happened like this. You know, guys have only had success. The only person that's had success from outside of Dallas is Alan Wilson. If a cat has never worked in Dallas ISD, I think Alan Wilson is the only one who's ever come to Dallas ISD and had success and win like 4 rounds, couple times, 3 rounds or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So the odds that an outsider, I don't care if they went to school in Dallas, because the coaching in Dallas, the functioning of things and how things have to be done, just universally, is very different than anywhere else. I've had many people that I know come from outside, come in and say, yeah, dog, it's way different. You know what I'm saying? So the odds that a guy from outside will come in and have a high level of success, it's not impossible, but it hasn't happened, and there's a reason for it. You know, it's the same way. It's a reason we the only ones that have done what we've done. Yeah, you know, it like I said, it ain't just talent. There's been a lot of talent. All over the place. You know, that part of it it's just structural, man. Everything is so just understanding the foundation of everything, you know, why it functions the way it functions. This game, you know, football is a car with so many moving parts.
You know, you said that on that. I posted that.
You know what I'm saying? And people, because we've had so much success in track and basketball in the inner city, people constantly try to compare it. But they're bicycles. You don't need the same thing. You don't need as many pieces. You know what I'm saying? It ain't as many people. You don't need as many grown folks. You know what I'm saying? It's very different. Football is so foreign. The success of football is so foreign to the inner city everywhere. Not just shoot. I look at LBJ. I wonder, you know, Austin ISD made them opt up to 5A. They had 900 some kids. I wonder what they would have done in 4A because I saw them get better all year, and I just wonder if they would have went to the state championship again, maybe would, you know.
Yeah.
But those are the things you deal with, you know. Somebody opting you up saying, man, we don't care if y'all got a chance to win the first state title in Austin history. We don't care nothing about that.
Yeah.
You finna go up with the rest of the school. You know, those things in the inner city, man, like you said, those are the hurdles. And you got to pick the right job. You got to get the right principal because the principals have all the say for the most part. You know, and you got to know when somebody doesn't have that. We didn't have the principal we have now when we got the job. You know, I felt like we had a good one. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had 3 principals in my first 4 years inside.
Wow.
You know, so we found Dr. Johnson and we found stability within how we're doing and the support. But that's part of it that just happened. You know, his first year was the Alito year. You know, and me and Todd, I think, have said this to different people publicly. His first year was the Alito year. So with that was the year we realized we were at that point where it's like we almost there. Mm-hmm. But you got to think, we didn't have a school. We were busing.
Yep.
We had just got him. So a lot of the stuff we have now just became pieces. We had already done a lot of the front work with nothing. You know, just being honest. With the resources, all of that. It wasn't, you know, a lot of people look now and it becomes all about, they got a new campus. This is what you get when, you know, or, the principal. I give Dr. Johnson all the credit in the world.
Yeah.
You know? But we did our part in figuring that out also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Coach, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
No.
It's some of this, like, man, we keep on, man. It's some of this, like, with coaching, with principals, is this some of this, let me get out the way and let you do you, or is it more so a partnership or what? Because, you know, I'm sure some schools, the principal maybe can make himself or herself bigger than everything. So what kind of relationship is it in that perspective?
I've been with several principals. Mm-hmm. For the one we had, Dr. Johnson, it's more collaborative. He's trying to stay out the way. He's an old coach though.
Yeah.
He coached multiple sports. I think he went to the regional finals or regional semifinals in girls basketball before. So he kind of has an understanding of how it works, and he's just there to support. You know, when he goes to games, he's on sideline as a fan, yelling at refs. You know what I mean? He's not trying to coach. He's not trying to tell somebody what they need to do. But on the flip side, it's what can I do to help you? But this is a person who understands the value to his campus from football, the success of football. But I've seen it multiple ways. You know, I've seen it where people are in the way. You know, it's priorities. I think both academics and athletics can both be successful at the same time, simultaneously. They can be successful simultaneously. But everybody doesn't understand that. You know, everybody's experience has not been that. They have not seen, especially in inner city schools, they have not seen athletics and academics go hand in hand for success. You know, but then that goes to, what is your definition of success? Athletic. Is it a state championship, or is it having a bunch of kids in the program, or is it your kids not having this many referrals? You know, depending on the administrator, their perspective will change. Same way with your administrator's definition of academic success, you know, in the inner city. You know, what kind of kid do you get? You know, I've worked in a school that I taught health, and I had the highest test scores in the district. And then I went to another school, and I taught it the exact same way, and I had the worst scores of my feeder. It is a different customer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
And everybody has to understand that. You know, the way teachers are hired and paid, and all of that plays into it. You know, somebody who's just a teacher, we're paid off of something called TEI. Your school star scores come in, your ACP scores come in. So if I'm a teacher trying to maximize my pay, the higher level teacher should try to go to the school that's like a magnet school, where I can have higher level kids, where my scores could be high, where my pay could be right. You know what I'm saying? That pulls away from a school like SOC, technically by rule. So you got to find a bunch of people who are rooted in that it means something to keep good teachers. You know, it's moving pieces to all of it.
Now, Coach, I gotta stop you, man. I always love this, man, because we go so many places. Now, you saying that about the tests and stuff like that made me think about something Coach Todd said. It was a tweet a while back, but he was saying how some of the, I'm paraphrasing, really paraphrasing, but some of the hurdles and things that we're dealing with is at the legislative level.
Yes.
Or we need, speak on that a little bit, because I think that's very fascinating, because a lot of people won't say that.
Well, a lot of it is in policy. The rules, the laws, how education is done, you know, how we're paid, you know, can policy be a site? I mean, can coaches' pay be a site-based thing? Well, it's within policy that it's not. You know what I'm saying? So somebody may say, well, Coach Todd should be the highest paid coach in the district, right? Well, it's not based off of that because of what the policy is. So the board of trustees would have to vote that in to change that. You know what I'm saying? And that's just an example in how education works. You try to educate yourself on how certain things work, how certain laws work, and especially within education, because it deals so much with us, our funding, standardized tests, everything, and it's, you know, board of trustees in education for us in Dallas, or school board in, you know, that's what it is, the school board in whatever district. Your relationship with your representative from your area, and them being able to speak for you, is important. You know, a place like Dallas, it's really hard because it's so big. 22 high schools with feeder schools that are middle schools, with feeder schools that are elementary that feed into those. So you got all of those schools covering so big of an area. You can't make a rule that helps everybody.
True.
Because all of the environments are so different, and they're driven by so many different things. So, you know, it digs into that, you know, power, the power shifts in power, you know, who's on the board, can they move votes? You know, it's no different than how Congress works and the Senate works. You know, when they trying to pass laws and change law, man, school works exactly the same. And everything doesn't fit for everybody. And just historically being Black in public education, rules haven't typically been made to fit us consistently. That's just not how things have worked. You know, Martin Luther King Day always brings, Twitter debates are fun to read. Every year you see the debate: did integration help or hurt Black folks? You know what I'm saying? And you just read the different points. You know, people make good arguments on both sides, but you got to understand your history of how we were educated before integration to really understand what the answer could be. You know what I'm saying, or what's right, or what's whatever. You know, so it's the same way, dog. It all functions like government, and the power is in the dollar, and where is the dollar? You know, if you trace the dollar, you trace who's really making the decisions, and that's just the reality of it.
And you know, it's kind of funny you say that, because I often look at so much stuff like power. You know, it's one thing to be the assistant coach. It's another thing to be, and I'm making this up, but the AD or the principal. Like, who is the power makers, and or do the power makers share the sentiments of the students? Because if not, they can make many rules that don't benefit the students, because there's no direct connection there. And it kind of made me think about tying it to Coach Todd when we talked about the UIL, PVIL. And man, I tell you this, Coach Ward, I told Coach Todd this. I said, it's so fascinating what a guy said. He said, man, when we integrated, you know, to UIL, he said, yeah, it was some good because we didn't have a lot economically. He said, but it was bad because we lost all of our identity. We lost who we were. And I was like, man, it was an old former coach, I think, down there in Houston. But when I just let that sit and eat, I was like, Wow.
It's the same way in education. Our identity, what we're taught, was no longer controlled by us. So our identity was not taken into consideration with what we were taught, what we are taught, not were taught. I mean, the Tulsa massacre. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't learn none of that in school. You know what
None
I'm
of
saying?
that.
We didn't learn, and I think I said this the first time. We didn't learn that Martin Luther King rescinded the "I Have a Dream" speech. We never learned that. We only learned the piece that we were given, and so a lot of identity is lost. You don't know, and you get older and you start trying to research it. But like I said, it's a lot of lost history, you know. And I call it lost history because it's not common knowledge. There are things you can learn from research and certain things, but you know, I mean, that's why we teach the kids a lot of what we teach them.
Yeah, that's why it's so important.
Yeah, the Eminem transfer stuff, I always use that example. You know, majority minority. You know, that was the way to pull talent from the inner city. That's why these Dallas ISD Hall of Famers, the Tim Browns, Woodrow, and the Michael Carters from Hillcrest, they lived in different areas. They didn't live over there by them schools. That was majority minority transfer. They were pulled there or bust there.
Yeah.
You know, like Ty said, you look through just the southern sector, and not the southern sector. We talking about Dallas. South Dallas didn't have a middle school at all.
Yeah. Wow.
So kids were naturally bused to these other places and plucked intentionally. Wow. West Dallas was split, and half of West Dallas kids had to go to Hillcrest. Now, geographically, if you know where Hillcrest is, that's far. Why would those kids be bused? Why would you split West Dallas and bust half of them? We got a coach on our staff, Chris Pegram. I learned from Chris Pegram because I was picking with him about being from West Dallas going to Hillcrest. And he's an older cat. He's like, "What? We was bused. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't go to Pinkston. And I was down the street from Pinkston." And it's like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, yeah, like that line at this neighborhood, we all had to go to Hillcrest. And he was a Division I running back that went to Oklahoma State.
Wow. So was it just the rules, or did they do that for athletic reasons?
I think they did it for multiple reasons.
Okay.
I think, again, when people are able to control those kind of things, whatever their agenda, they can do it. And who's going to stop it? You know what I'm saying? I know times are a little different. They're less as obvious as those that we talk about.
Yeah.
But it's strategic. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a coincidence because Hillcrest didn't have to be the school. It was closer schools than Hillcrest. Yeah. So the closest school to Pinkston, North Dallas is closer.
Yeah,
Sunset and Adamson right there.
Yeah, true.
Just across 30.
Yeah.
So why Hillcrest? You see what I'm saying? Like I wasn't there. You know, I haven't. That book I read. I finished it 2 weeks ago.
Is it
the name of it? But it's about Dallas and the history of Dallas and a lot of those decisions. But it didn't go into detail. It just kind of skimmed and gave back.
Yeah.
So it was kind of. It took me a long time because I was kind of frustrated because I got questions. You know, I read something. You tell me something, I'm gonna ask. Like, okay, why? Okay, so how was this? Yeah. So the accommodation. That's what it's called. The accommodation. And it was interesting. You know what I'm saying? And you look at the history of all of those places, and like I went to Kimball. You know, it was about how Kimball was the most affluent neighborhood later on. You know,
it was. Yep.
That's why its sphere is on campus. T.W. Brown, they're on the same block. If you look at the other schools in Dallas that are like that, they're places of influence. J.L. along with Woodrow. You know, you look at those places. It had to be the money places. They wanted their stuff right there. That's why Kimball integrated last. You know, all of that stuff. So you start learning the history of all of it, and those are advantages. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're just talking about from an education perspective, from an athletic perspective, those are advantages, and people of influence and with money were able to make those kind of decisions and get those things done, you know. And so knowing those things helps you understand why you are where you are. You know?
Yeah, and man, talk about Oak Cliff, coach. I mean, you know, when my grandfather moved off from Marsalis and with Michigan, Vermont, which is right around the corner from Sauk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I want to say the third or fourth African American person in that community. Now this is right on Marsalis, so this Oak Cliff, it will never be the hood. I'm gonna say within 5 years, it's not gonna be the hood. You know, if things go how they want it. But it's fascinating because, you know, my dad was like, man, that neighborhood was half Jewish. And I say that to say, like, it's crazy how so many of these neighborhoods that are the hood now, they were not the hood 50 years ago. So even that dynamic, but the kids don't know that. And I didn't know that till my dad was like, yeah, you know, Oak Cliff, it was its own area, own little,
These kids don't understand. They don't know that. I mean, I got, when I was in 8th grade, I got pulled with Justin Owens, Coach O, recruiting opportunity. I was it was my brother driving. J.O. was in the car. Another cat was in. We got pulled over at gunpoint by the police in 8th grade by some white police. That was DeSoto back then. That's how it was. You know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Yeah,
so DeSoto didn't start to change until the late 90s?
Yeah, late 90s. I think DeSoto flipped all black. I think 04, 05. I remember going to a graduation. I went to the 02 graduation, and you still had a bunch of white cheerleaders, majority probably.
And D-Rob told me that, I think, too.
And then 05, I went, and it was all black. Because I knew two. I grew up with two girls. So yeah, I mean, you would think, but they don't know.
Because this same thing can be said about Lancaster, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Duncanville. Duncanville probably was one of the latest ones to kind of change right.
Yeah, I think so. Duncanville still got old money there, though. They still got old white money. Don't sleep.
Wow, man, that's
crazy.
That's crazy, and it's just, but like I said, I wish we were in control of really being left to teach our children and be able to formulate plans and without having the oversight to say you can't do this or you can't do that. Like
that's the battle of the critical race theory right now. You know, what to teach in the schools. You know, what can you teach? I'm trying to, you know, certain states trying to make it against the law to even speak on it. You know, they don't want, for whatever reason, I mean, the fear of being villainized. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, history is history. And history is his story. You know what I'm saying? Whoever's telling it, they're deciding the story, because you and I both know everything got two sides in the middle. You know what I'm saying? And the truth is somewhere in the middle. So whoever wrote it, it's one-sided. And coincidentally, most history we haven't had a say in. You know?
No, that's real. And I also want to say shout out to Principal Joseph, who was at Duncanville. You know your boy Joseph, but when he came on the podcast, he was just saying how, you know, we think about the presidential elections. He said, but these school board meetings, he said that's even more important than that stuff almost. And he was like, but what he was saying is, from his position, he noticed the parent turnout wasn't the same when it comes to that. He said, but when you talk about the school board and the attorney state general and all those, he said they're the ones that kind of influence what's being taught. I was like, man, that's a fascinating point. You know, we kind of go to sleep on this school stuff when it can influence what's being taught.
Right. No, I mean, you know, Abe was ahead of his time in Mesquite. Just, you know, Abe is a lot like us in soccer. And everywhere is not ready for that. Everywhere is not ready for that persona. I have no hesitation in talking about that and saying that he was before his time, and Abe is a hell of a guy. You know, he always been that, and he gonna be him. You know what I'm saying? And he does a really good job with that. He is a great admin. He is. But the piece of it for us, man, is the place got to be ready for you. It got to be ready for you to authentically be you. That situation, that culture, that area, that neighborhood, that clientele, they got to be ready for you. You know, and everywhere is not. You know, especially for a well-dressed black man that walk around with his chest out and don't blink and look you in your eyes.
Yeah.
That's different, and that's you know, people try to say whatever they want to say with that. That's me and you talked about it beforehand, and me and you, we had that conversation. I'm like, yeah, I'm praying for my boy. You know, I work there. You know, I know how that is out there. You know what I'm saying? And there's some good people out there, you know, but some districts ain't necessarily ready for those kind of things.
And you know, a lot of people who end up hearing the thing, we're just making this stuff up. I've been on the media side, going up to press boxes and stuff, and I tell you right off, I get a lot of looks like, okay, who are you? Or do you even supposed to be here? And the people don't have to say anything, but the look a certain way can say, what are you doing?
They went to one of the podcasts we always go on and crash the party. Me and Todd, the Dub, Southside podcast. They talk about high school football and stuff. They went to a game at North Crowley, which you know is black now.
Yep.
They were playing. I can't remember which school. One of them schools that's like close to Fort Worth, but not quite Fort Worth. It's in the district, and they told a press box horror story from this year. You know, but it's 3 black guys walking in the press box. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Full of white folks. Yeah. You know, so you know, we still go through that stuff. And the thing is, man, you know, people are so intimidated or they want us to be quiet about those experiences. It makes people so uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It does, but it's reality for us in a lot of instances. And does it happen all the time? No. You know, but it exists, and sometimes, you know, in those, I went through that when I was at A&M in College Station a lot, you know, as a college coach. You know, you see it, you feel it, and you have those experiences, you keep them with you.
Yeah,
and it's our responsibility not to apply them to everybody we see in that situation, but we also have to do our job in being responsible and protect ourselves. And that's the balance that a lot of us, that's where, like you said, that's where the code switching comes in. Code switching is I'm gonna define it for myself. Code switching is attempting to cater to someone's fear of you by changing how you act to make them more comfortable with you. Yeah. That's really what code switching is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's something that we have to go shoot. I'm a grown man. I walk in a store, it could be 30 degrees outside. When I walk in the store, I take my hood off. Yeah. I was uncomfortable during COVID wearing a mask because I'm a taller, bigger black dude. Yeah. That's you can't, that's not protecting yourself in this society. You learn that. The looks you get, the things you got. I mean, so within coaching, you know, that's why we do what we do. Because if I can't do it around my own, then why? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And it's the same thing with hairstyles, you know, for a long time. And even in churches, you know, if you had locks, you know, some call them locks, some call them dreads. You know, you need to cut that out, man. You know what I'm saying? It was a taboo. And I can imagine a coach that had dreads 30, 40 years ago, man.
I remember. I ain't been coaching that long, and I remember you couldn't coach in Frisco. I remember Coach talking about it. He had to cut. I'm not taking that job because I got to cut my dreads if I go to Frisco. I remember that. You know, right before I got to Mesquite, you couldn't have no facial hair. Nobody. Wow. That's over. You know, so I mean, these things, you know, they evolve. You know, but you know, it's our job to, within our power, push things forward. Yeah. And that's why we do it the way we do it. That's why we don't go to offend nobody or try to whatever. We just do it our way. And and that's the thing about the uniqueness of what we've done. Yeah. We didn't subscribe to this old school, everybody is like this, the kids better act like this. They better do this, you know. We didn't subscribe to that, man. We adjust around who our coaches are, who our kids are.
And that's the beauty. Not to stop because that's the beauty is indifferent. Like we can see here, it's Caucasian guys that we say, man, that dude's the coolest thing. He a good coach. Because we're honest people. But what's sad is when you have to blend in and be something you're not.
Yeah.
Like you guys, I think your OC is a Hispanic guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta be let these people be who they be without morphing them to make them be what you want them to be.
And that's culture. That's our society.
Yeah.
We like to try to tell people what they should be, how they should act, what they should do. You know, the free thinking kind of thing is frowned upon because it's unknown for other people. You know, only I know what the Lord called me to do. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm the only one who have the experiences that I have with that. You know, when I had opportunities to play in Canada when I stopped playing ball, but I always knew I wanted to be a high school coach. And it was an opportunity at Lincoln with James Argenti. And, you know, only one person was really supportive of that. My mentors, you know, Rod Jones, you know, close friends was mad. Parents was mad. My girl at the time was mad. You know, everybody was mad and I was crazy and all of that other stuff. And, you know, but I was ready to get into what I would be doing. You know, I knew what I was called to do. I knew why. And, you know, other people can't see that. I don't care who they are. And sometimes you got to ignore the noise and follow it. And sometimes you fall on your face following it.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're honest with yourself and your heart is in the right place, most of the time it works out. The Lord gonna put you where you're supposed to be. You know, and it ain't no coincidence that I did that I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. I'm a kid-driven person. I've always done what I've done for kids. You know, I ain't never been for money and never been for glory. You know, it's been about kids. And, you know, I'm lucky to have gotten the same spot where people are like-minded when it comes to that. And I think that's another reason why we are what we are. You know, we're driven by it. And it's fun. You know, it's fun to go against all these stereotypes, and you know. But I tell you what, from the first time you and I spoke, you know, a lot has changed. You know, people do treat us different. I think there is a respect there from a lot of people, especially the ones that have played us. You could just tell by the way people treat you.
Okay, yeah.
And if they respect you. Some things you can't fake, you know. You know, everybody can say, you know, somebody got kids, but any team that's winning got kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it's from that first time, like I said, it was 2-3 years ago. Yeah. It's different. You know, I go to clinic. I didn't go to clinics then. I go to clinics now. You know, I speak. I'm speaking at another one in April in Abilene. Okay. Todd speaking in College Station in February.
I was wondering, was he gonna speak at one? Okay.
Yeah, he's speaking in College Station in February. He likes to talk about culture. You know, they try to kind of make him talk about you know, he spoke at Texas High School for coaches.
That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think he might have been the first inner city guy to do that.
And he didn't change.
No.
That's powerful too, man.
And he spoke on culture and the makeup, and you know, he like a comedian. When he get in that setting, he gonna say funny stuff. And then at the end, he rushed through the linebacker play in the last 5 minutes of a 50 minutes conversation. Yeah. You know, like, y'all want me to talk about guy? They want me to talk about. Come on, let's go to the next one. That one don't even matter. You know, everybody's laughing like, oh, this dude. Yeah. You know, but like I said, man, we have owned the role that we have for inner city coaches, for black coaches, and you know, it's just funny. You one of those guys that's been there and seen as it's grown. You know, you didn't see it from the very beginning, but you've been around long enough to see it go from, you know, the middle of the room to the ceiling. And I feel the same as you feel being a part of it.
Yeah. And let me ask you this two things, Coach, and we're gonna wrap it up, man. I gotta run to the grocery store and I gotta leave here. Two things. I want you to talk about some of the coaches, some of the college coaches that came through there, and you know, what some of the things they kind of said about your program. And then I don't know why, but I do want to ask this question. What was your experience? And this is kind of right when I started following y'all, so this was about 3 years ago. What was your experience playing Deion Sanders in high school?
Oh, okay.
So you I guess you go with Coach Sellers first, and then go with the college coaches that come through if you want to do like that.
I had a lot of respect. His son was a really good player.
Yeah, he was.
But then they had a good team.
Yep.
And they had a lot of size. But the offense that they ran, I liked a lot. I think he was calling it, but you could tell that it was a defensive guy that understood defensive rules, and they did a lot of things to try to put you in situations to where it tested your rules. We played well defensively. I remember seeing, they had that little reality show going back then too. It wasn't as big, of course, but I remember seeing it after the fact. I think after the season, and he and his son kind of not got into it, but disagreed. He's telling his son from the sideline, "It's there. What are you doing?" And his son is like, "Man, that defense ain't simple. It's changing. Because we move a lot. We do a whole lot." And he's like, "Man, he on the sideline kind of like, man, the defense ain't simple, dog. Like, you tripping, But he did some things with his feet that got him out of plays, and it was a good game, and they won. I think they beat us 28-14. It was COVID year. But it was a lot of respect for it. They were a good football team, and they were well coached. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't surprise me when they had the success they had at Jackson. I'd be interested to see how the Colorado thing goes, because the philosophy has to shift, being able to get portal kids at a SWAC school, especially linemen and certain caliber players, especially with his son as a quarterback, it does put you at a different level talent-wise. Getting portal kids in the Pac-12 will not immediately make you whatever. It's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have to be some high school investment. It may take a little more time, than it took. But I'm eager to see, because again, I can't say that formula won't work. It just ain't never been done. You know what I'm saying? I think some people have got in the portal and had some success. Mm-hmm. But I'm eager to see, man. I think they got somebody was talking about it the other day. I think they had TCU first game. So
yeah,
what he was doing at Jackson was similar to what we do. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest difference is we can say a lot of the same things he or Ed Reed recently just said about we're saying it about inner cities and structure and administration and how uncommon administration backing you and understanding. It's the same thing they kind of saying, but they saying it on a grander scale. But it's a whole lot more prideful, get defensive people that don't want to hear what they're saying. They want to, I heard some a couple of weeks ago where they say when someone is telling you an issue that they're having, if in your response you use the word "you," talking about something they do, you didn't hear what they said. You listened to respond.
Yeah,
that happens a lot. That has happened a lot with their situation. People are saying, "Well, you was just trying to," you know what I'm saying? Well, you don't know. You didn't go to HP. They're instead of hearing what they're saying, a lot of people are not trying to hear that. And they got their reasons, and all of that. But the response that tells you something within that response. On the other side, what was the other question you asked me?
I'm just saying, what? Well, now it's really that season. But what coaches have came through there? What's some of the things that to y'all face that they're saying about y'all program and about y'all kids?
I think a lot of people, are congratulatory. When I'm not the friendliest, you know what I'm saying? I kind of like today, I'm in there trying to work out, trying to get back working out because I put on weight. And coaches walk in, and the volleyball coach, Coach Johnson, brings them to me to take them to trailer. And I'm like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
And they kind of looking like, dang, coach. Well, one of them, Demetri Gary, actually, went to
UNT.
In North Texas.
Yep.
So I'm like, it says, Gary, which y'all, I'll take y'all.
Yeah.
But most of the people that I come across that I know are congratulatory, just very praising of the job that we're doing. Ones that have gotten our kids constantly speak to how hard they work, how they gonna do extra. You're going to see the kids making sure they do some extra. One of them got put at, I ain't going to say what school. One of them got put out the weight room. He just got there. He got put out the weight room.
Wow.
His first or second week, because they're like, you don't really know what you're doing yet. We don't really want you. And he and they're trying to get some extra. They talk about how sharp our kids are, how much game they've learned. This year, the playoffs got pushed back, so it actually fell into their open period. I mean, okay. Recruiting, signing day got pushed back. Okay. Normally, like, they can't get out. Mm-hmm. Dude, them last 4 games, they were on the sideline.
Yep, you sure right. Yep, I remember that.
Some of those coaches were able to see how we do things. And, people kind of have texted me on the side or came to the school and kind of had somebody find me and sat down like, all right, coach, tell me how you do this. Because I saw y'all doing this. And what you teaching? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, but it's a I think it's some background stuff involved. People know I've coached on that level. They respect the cats that I'm associated with. And, I had to think for myself. I had success. When I was at A&M, the 3 corners that played, I played in the league. What I'm saying? 3 of them. So, for that season. So I've had some success at that level. And,
you got a long D1 run right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that way since I started coaching. That's trying to give those kids an advantage mentally, technically and mentally. Has always been, I had the experience where I went to school and I didn't know anything. I lined up to play DB, and I was baseline had not been taught. My DB coach in high school was a track guy. He was a DB coach, but he was a track cat. So it was, you got him. However you get that done, get it done. You know what I'm saying? And I try to make sure my kids don't go in with that same experience. And, I mean, it's worked so far, and it ain't just about, people say D1, they picture a body type,
Yeah.
Davo, Abdul Muhammad, them cats is short and they ain't blazers. You know what I'm saying? It's that those are the ones where the work had to be done.
Wow.
You had to, everybody don't have undersized kids go to Division 1.
True.
That's hard to do. It takes something special, and I think it's something within them kids and how they bought in and how they work, and how advanced our scheme is and how advanced they play technically.
Yeah,
I try to make sure they know that you got to understand that this is your advantage. You ain't finna go there and be out athleting people. So this is what you got, So it's a run, man, and it shouldn't stop no time soon.
So y'all already gearing up for next year. Now, have you seen the guys you're gonna have? Like, okay, I'm gonna work with him. I mean, not the guys that was on varsity. Any of your upcoming guys, you like? Okay, he might be something.
Oh yeah, we already at it. Yeah, okay. we already working. The good thing about years like this is you've really only got 2 guys that played. One guy played a lot. He played state championship. He played every game. Another guy played in some important games. And then another guy started some district games. So you got kind of 3 guys. One of them, you got a guy. Mm-hmm. Another one, he played, he can play. The maturity, he could be a guy. Yeah. And then the third one, you like, okay, we need him to come on. But it's going to be so much competition, jockeying for spots. And that's the fun part of this.
Ooh, I got to get out there too, man. Believe it or not, I ain't been out there to see y'all exit. I want to see the weight room, the campus. I want to see everything because I like how y'all got that mural with was it Dr. Martin Luther King quote or something on there? Uh-huh. Yeah, I want to see that, man. Yeah. I'm into that stuff, man.
Yeah, they're supposed to do another one on the back of the school with something on it. I don't know. So, yeah, you'll enjoy it. Spring ball is probably the most energetic, and animated. During the season, it's kind of business. Mm-hmm. Fall camp, we kind of go at it a little bit, but spring ball is the time where it's like, it gets going. And, it's all a bunch of colleges out there. So the kids, it's a little pressure, okay. So it gets fun, man. Iron sharpens iron. And I think this year going into spring ball, offensively, they should be a lot further ahead than us. So it'll be a good, we should grow a lot defensively. I don't go in spring to beat the offense. Go in spring with the plan to do what we do and teach how we teach. So, and through how they do things. You know, it's gonna be some L's that's gonna be taken, and it's gonna be some growth from that, and that's the best part of it. I'd rather take the L at practice than in the game. I can tell you that now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who? There was one other question I had that escaped me now, but yeah, man, 2 hours and 53 minutes, man.
I didn't want to break tie record because y'all went, boy.
Now the record, believe it or not, man, was which is the connected tie was when my linebacker out of Skyline, Kenny Cooper. Man, Kenny Cooper, we talked about 3 hours and 50 some minutes, man. Ooh. And but in this
he gave some gems though, man. I listened to.
Did you hear that? Did you listen to it? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
man, cool. And see, man, that guy, and see, it ties right back to Todd, which is so funny how the world works. But you know, I was a freshman at Skyline when those guys was juniors and seniors, man. And you know, Coach Todd credited them with changing that whole Skyline team, that whole defense. Him and Spencer Reeves, who both went to Minnesota. Coach Todd said, man, those whole guys changed my defense.
It's always a kid or two or three. Yeah, it sets a culture for you. At SOC, I had success before SOC coaching secondary. Right. But at SOC, the kid that set the standard in the secondary was Kanine Williams. He just grad transferred to Tulsa.
Oh, wow.
We called him Slim. Slim was the kid who he just worked his butt off, dog. Yeah. He worked his ass off. You know what I'm saying? He was a kid. You know, we had a lot of those. It was a lot of hood kids on that team, like true hood kids. Yeah. And it would be on some, I need a ride.
Yeah.
And, I never forget when it was like, man, we ain't picking nobody up. Y'all find your own ride. Y'all can get everywhere y'all want to go. Yeah. Nah, y'all find rides. And Slim was the kid who didn't have a ride, and he walked from his granny apartment at Redbird by the old Coulters to SOC.
Wow.
He did that, he ain't never have to ask for no ride. He never had to ask for a ride again. I would never. You know, he set that standard of being willing to do whatever. Yeah. And everybody in the secondary after kind of just fell in place. And then also, you know, and then after him, a couple years, you had Stephen Parker, Darion Clark. They set the death row standard. They were different. You know what I'm saying?
And I remember Coach Todd talked about, I think, Stephen Parker. Is that the one that he was only there for a year?
Nah, Steve was there 3 years. Well, 2.5. He got there 6 semester his freshman year. He got kicked out of a school in Lubbock as middle school. He went to a charter school the first semester, and then he came to SOC with no credits. And he was a work in progress. You know, like Todd said, he was a kid who just didn't know better. Yeah, common sense things you think. He didn't know. You teaching him life, respect. You know what I'm saying? And he finna graduate this spring. You know, like Todd told the staff, man. You know, Stephen Parker. I need to have that patience with him. You know what I'm saying? Because either we helping him here, you helping us help him with football, or he might be the one robbing you. You know what I'm saying? That was Parker, and the transition of that kid. Not just him, but him and, like I said, Darion Clark transitioned us, the program. You know, they were the trailblazers for the entire defensive thing. You know, and that goes to Traylor and Spencer, who mentored them kids. Yeah, man, it always starts with a kid or two. You know, ours went to a different level with Jimmy Wiry.
That's what I thought you were gonna name. I thought you were gonna name him.
I mean, it was said, but you know, Jimmy brought in his senior year was a COVID year. Okay. Jimmy started meeting with the kids on his own. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Just even how to be an OG. You know, Jimmy left and started as a true freshman and then came back. They didn't make a bowl game. It was there for the last 3 games. And coaching Kyron Chambers, like he'd been coaching 10 years.
Wow.
You know, Kai started doing stuff that I didn't even, you know, Jimmy was doing that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But he had just did it in the Pac-12 at the same position. You know, so just setting a standard for even after you finish, when it matters to you, when it's a cult following. You know, when I'm a part of a blood oath society, you know, Jimmy treated it. They still treat it that way, you know, and so now you have the standard is the kid that, you know, Jimmy mentored the kid I was talking about that played Samaje Gasaway, and he learned to lead from Jimmy, and he's leading that way, you know, now, you know, just naturally, you know, last Friday, you know, they off, we ain't keeping them out of school. He gets in the chat, you know, hey freshmen, y'all let y'all rise know we finna do something out of school. You know, it's just different. You know,
so what grade is he in?
He'll be a senior next year.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so, but he's already getting on the freshman though.
Oh yeah, everybody though. He played last year. He played a lot. You know, it was a point where he took the job and he was starting, and he dislocated his elbow against Paris, trying to block a field goal. But yeah, man, you know, once it's rolling like that and the standard is set, and you empower them kids, other kids see it, and they don't just want to be the one that's getting the offers. They don't just want to be the one that's playing. They want to be the one that's doing it right and making sure other people are doing it right. And that repeats itself as long you really just become a monitor. You just making sure that it keeps rolling. You know, a lot of the stuff, you know, the highest level of retention in learning is when you're teaching. Yeah. So now you're getting kids in the program where they're constantly teaching each other. You know, stuff that a coach normally would have to give all examples, talk. Now the kids are correcting and teaching. Like, come on, hold on, stop, come back. This is how you do it, dog. You got to keep it like this. You got to do it. You know, when that starts happening, you know you're gonna be fine as a program. Good. Yeah. Kids, people graduating doesn't kill you. Coaches leaving doesn't kill you. Yeah. Because the culture is set. As long as you don't lose, there's always some key pieces, key cogs as grown folks. You know what I'm saying? As long as you don't lose one, too many at the same time, it keeps going. You know. Yeah. So.
And like I say, I still think y'all the players gonna keep getting better, but like y'all develop what y'all got. You know, that's one thing. But I just feel like it's gonna be such a destination type place, which is, you know, when I'm nerding out on those college boards, it's LSU board. Man, that's Southdallas, they're in the city school, man, but they winning back to back. You know, I'm going for them. University of Texas, Southdallas, like people from out of town within this region, I should say, are noticing y'all, coach. They noticing what y'all doing, and they always say this is an inner city school doing it. So just give me your flowers, saying they notice it. Out of state notice it.
Yeah. A lot of out of state coaches called Todd after that first year. He talked about some of it, you know, just kind of asking, you know, telling them their battles and how do they work around it. You know, inner city Houston, shoot. Some athletic directors or whatever from different districts, you know, people they trying to figure out how they can best help their programs get better, you know. That's the thing, you know. It's about fighting and competing, and but you got to equip people, you know. How different is it? What are y'all getting now, you know? But you know, like I said, the mistake that a lot of people can make is looking at where it is now.
Yeah, not long term. Yeah.
That first Alito year, you know, that was the de facto state championship game. You know, that's a moral victory statement, but that just tells you where we were as a program, and we didn't have what we have now. We had no facilities. You know, Dr. Johnson, it was his first year, so he really couldn't implement. He hadn't implemented a lot of stuff. He was just supporting. So it's a lot of stuff that we did before what do y'all have came, you know what I mean? And I try to make sure I say that so that people can understand the journey. You know, it's a journey to get to this point. Year one ain't the time most times. Yeah, you know, it takes some special stuff. You know, what they did at P&G year one, that's different, dog. Yeah, that ain't normal. That's why I look at them like, oh, they okay. You know, like on Belly, old boy, eating that banana, like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I told Jeff that after the game, like, I was like, yeah, man, y'all heard this one. I don't know about you, dog.
Yeah.
He just kind of looked at me like,
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. What did we're in on this, coach? What did Coach Ty when he spoke to the parents before the kind of beginning of the season? What was his message to them?
The same as it's always been. You need to know what you're getting into. You need to know who coaching your kids. We're going to coach hard. You need to make a relationship with your kids' coach. Kids lie. Because kids run from discipline. They run from structure. They play victim. They know you well enough to play you against coach, so I don't have to do such and such. Yeah. You need to. It's your responsibility as a parent to make a relationship with their coach. You need to know who the coaches is, who is your coach kid, and you'll get an understanding of why your kid telling you he's sore like that. Case in point, the Rockwall Heat situation.
Yeah, man. I was gonna bring it up, but I didn't. But that's a whole. I
wasn't there. I wasn't there. We work hard. I can say that. To that we work extremely hard. Also, I've had the soreness where I couldn't move. You know what I'm saying? With my mentor and who used to train me, we train like he trains. Kids have been sore like that, especially when they first start.
Yep.
Ain't no way around it, dog. You can work your kids your way into it. But ain't no way around it. But a big part of it is, like I said, we won state on Friday. Them young DBs, we was lifting on Monday. You have that UIL period where you gotta wait, like you can't do something for like 5 days. But so those days, but that was the time. That was the acclimation time. And they were sore. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to start when school starts, he ain't got time to waste. He ain't got time to acclimate you into it. The programs that win, I know the story of Katie winning the state championship and they kids kicking the door in their weight room the next week. Because wasn't no coach there to open it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? This happened in the 2009, 2010-ish. Like those programs, them kids ain't waiting. They ain't no, they gonna take a break, but it ain't like that.
Yeah. Especially when they done tasted a little success. They want it.
They know what it takes.
Yep.
You don't got that. The important kids, the kids that's gonna be important to you, but they not running from workouts. They running to them. They trying to stay extra. Yeah. They trying to do all they can. Like all of that. When you're around it and you see it, them kids they want it, and the parents want it. You get that all the time. So Todd talks about that stuff in the parent meeting. That hadn't changed. Traylor gives his recruiting spiel. He breaks down GPAs and all of that because that's very important to us. That's why our kids qualify. Discipline, coming to school, dress code during the season. We don't meet on after games. No matter how hot it is, how you are. Control yourself. If you're the parent that can't understand that and gonna continuously call the coach, that speaks to the reason your kid probably is acting or playing the way he's playing. That's how we talk. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because if you ain't got that self-control to say, you know what, they just played a game, I'm going to let coach have his time. I call him in the morning. I shoot him a text, hey, coach, I'll hit you in the morning. Whatever. You ain't got that self-control, then why would your kid? Why should your kid have it? So that means now I got to teach it to him. And it ain't going to feel good to him that I'm teaching him how to control himself. Yeah. Because what he sees at home is you can't control yourself.
Yeah.
That's how we talk. You know what I'm saying? It's straightforward, and that's how Todd pretty much talks to those parents. And we get certain types of parents. The pampered parent don't want to be at stop. They don't want that truth that we give. That because we're gonna tell you like it is. It is what it is. Where you are is where you are, and how things go. And we're not gonna adjust that. We're gonna give it to you like that's how we know. If I wanted to sugarcoat it, I'd be somewhere else.
Nah, for real.
Say code switch. If I want the code switch, I'd be somewhere else.
Yeah, but y'all could be out in itself, man. And shout out to Coach Traylor. Shout out to Spencer and all the other guys who really doing it. Hey man, I forget out of here, Coach. I gotta give me something to eat, man. 3 hours and 7 minutes. Coach, appreciate it. Hey, send me a few pictures, cause I'm a spam it tonight with a few things. And I see you when I see you, man. I enjoyed this, bro.
All right, dog.
Okay, bro.
Always a pleasure, man.
Yep, you already know. Appreciate it. All right.